Hello. Why, hello there, good folks. How do you do? Plague Deity says, who's ready for another wonderful stream? Well, I hope that all of you are. Plague Deity, hello, Gems. Hello. I hope you're having a good one. Little Lucy, hello. Welcome back. Good to have you here. Plague Deity says, man, I feel so spoiled with all these streams this week. Hey, I'm glad to hear it. I really am. I was hoping that was kind of the effect that this was all going to give off. It's a lot of anxiety saying like, hey, I'm going to take some time off of work and come just stream a lot for a week. But, I think it's been a lot of fun so far, and hopefully it will it'll get the juices flowing for people. Hopefully it'll get people thinking along the lines of like, hey, hey, there's a lot of stuff that we could do around here. Because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Today, for instance, we are going to be doing something real different. Something that I've never done before, and something that I think is going to be a lot of fun. I want to start by saying this one's going to be probably pretty Twitch heavy. Over on Discord, I do plan to jump in and pop a stream in there, but this is going to be pretty Twitch heavy in terms of like how you're actually going to be able to access the thing. I think the votes are most likely going to be Twitch only, because I can't do both and like have those two collate together. Let me see. All right. Okay, excellent. Plague Deity, thank you very much. I appreciate you. A little gift sub going out to little Lucy. Thank you a ton. The system for today, I think, is going to be pretty straightforward. I considered a few different options here, and I kind of decided, like, the best option is probably the simplest option, right? That's not quite Occam's razor, but more just sort of general efficiency. Jem says, "Oh fudge! Just remembered I have to record something." Ooh, is it something for one of the crews we're running with here on Discord? I hope that it is. Gems has gotten me into quite a few different sort of voice recording opportunities, and so like I told Gems earlier, if she's not careful, I'm going to start calling her my agent. Because Gems really is doing a lot of the work, like a lot of the same types of work that an agent does, getting different people coordinated with different gigs. And yeah, I think you are one like study up on agency going rates, and I think you could probably make a decent agent. Now, frankly, I don't think if you were my agent, I think I would probably get the boot from the roster first, because you've got a lot of very young talent, and typically agents kind of specialize in something specific. But hey, that's all right. I would be all right with that if you if you jumped in there and started to do a lot of voice agent talent, or voice talent agent stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Hey, folks. What do you think we're doing today? What do you think this is all about? I think I've mentioned that there is there is some choose your own adventure in the works today. Now, I took a look at some of my options for different books that might be possible, and I kind of came to the conclusion that those would probably be pretty challenging territory, because it would be a lot of artwork and such that I wasn't going to be able to represent terribly well here on screen. What I really need is like one of those teacher things that it's like a little projector that I can set up a little camera, or like they're like little pen cameras too that you can use. But they work at really, really close ranges, which, as we discovered with this webcam that this new one that I bought, not terribly good with the real short range stuff. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out. But today, I think it was going to be. I think the most fun option is going to be to try this website. It's called ChooseYourStory.com, and I think it's going to be kind of exciting, because I think we're gonna choose a story together, and then we are going to operate that sucker through your average Twitch polls, and you're all gonna have a chance to actually decide which direction these adventures go. I've never done this before. I think it could be fun to do in the future, especially like if we come up with a real system for it, then I might start to prep these beforehand, and I might have some like backdrop art set up for each of these individually, like for each scene that we head to. But yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to go, Sandra. This is going to be an interesting little adventure for all of us. But this is basically just the story game's top stories overall. And as you can see, they've got ratings over here, which is good. Some of these sites can be tough to navigate if you don't have a ratings system. And that's just like how good people have found it. We've got a difficulty, which I think goes from 1 to 8, which is an odd range, but I think we'll probably start with kind of an easier one on here. And then we've got the length. And I'm going to be honest with you, the length, I have absolutely no reference for what this means. Like, I don't know if a full bar means it's 100 pages long or 600 pages long, or, you know, if like 25 pages is considered super long. I don't know. I have no idea, but we're going to find out together. Now, I've got a question for y'all. Do we want to try and hit a difficult one? Or not? How are we feeling in general? I feel like it might be prudent for the first time to try one of the less difficult ones, because I went through a couple of these myself, and it's hard to tell like what exactly the range on these is. I think I would need a little bit more experience before I truly figure out like how deep down does it go. But we got some fun stuff in here. I mean, there's a lot of variation in what sort of stuff we could attack. Dungeon stompage through time, the price of freedom, innocent lost. Farewell, my childhood self. Ashes in the Sun says maybe for the first run something simpler. Yeah, I think you're probably right. There's the Walmart game. The simplest one I'm seeing here up top is Farewell, My Childhood Self, but you know, we've got some options here. I think, Achilles. You know, Achilles might be kind of fun. It looks like it might be slightly on the longer end, but you know, maybe we'll just sort of sort our way through it and see. You know what? No, I want to do a really short one to begin with. We can try to figure out, just because I want to get a chance to. Oh, here we go. The Proposal. That's a good combination of easy and short. Although here's this one. How not to write a Pokemon adventure. Part 1, Chapter 1, Section A, beginning of the start. I see. So I take it somebody's very salty about this one. Oh, does he, Escar? I gotcha. Yeah, maybe he might have some insight for us. Okay. Ooh, I don't know what this one means, and that one, frankly, that gets me a little bit intrigued. So let's try the Free Hand. This is by Ashen Snake. It's a level 4 and level 4 difficulty, and a short one of the shortest I've seen so far. Rating is 6.16. Yeah, Ashes says, I'm very curious about that Pokemon one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure what that means is that Will 11 got really salty about how certain people are writing their adventures and decided to be a real punk about it and say, don't do it like this. I'm just going to write a really terrible one to show you all. I'll show you all. I was looking at the rest of these and I'm like, well, I will say I don't see a lot of Will 11 elsewhere on this board with some decent stories, but that is not true. It looks like Will 11 is featured fairly heavily here on this upper level. So everyone, welcome to Choose Your Own Adventure. We're going to go with the Free Hand. Now, I'm going to pull the ripcord here. I'm going to have Joseph Gordon-Levitt give me the kick if it's looking like we're delving into like R-rated territory, but if we stick with like PG-13 territory, I will probably just sort of let it ride. All right. And then once I figure out what this is actually about, I may go in and find like one piece of backdrop art just to give us something to look at here. But you know what? If we read through a couple of these and we're like, and we're not sure where to go next, we may indeed find ourselves. Ooh, I want to do the Bard's Tale later on though. Let me open that up in a new tab here. Yeah, your boy Pear says, one quick question. Have you ever done voice acting in some video game? You sound familiar. Not in a video game, no. That's certainly the goal. That is certainly the aim. I would love to do voice acting in video games. And hey, if I sound familiar enough in a positive way, you can go ahead and check out the link tree that has just popped up in chat there and share that around. And hey, maybe it'll happen someday. And maybe it'll be your fault that it happens, you boy. Maybe. All right, the free hand. Now, folks, here's how I'm going to be running this. I think I think my goal here is to make this as smooth as possible. And as such, I'm going to be popping in polls right now. I'm definitely open for requests. I'm going to pop some polls in chat here. And what I'm going to do is, instead of labeling all these individually, I am just going to figure out like what number of options there are. So if it's like, if there are 3 options, I will put in 3. If there are, more options than that, then I guess we'll figure it out. If there are more than 5 options, because 5 is all that Twitch gives me to work with, I'm just going to put in A, B, C, D, E, that kind of thing. And y'all might have an opportunity to vote before we even know what all the options are, in which case we're just going to roll with it, because I don't know how this is all going to go down. So I'm going to get these polls kicked off, and we're going to get ready to go. I've seen player comments. I don't think I want to read through those. And all the description that we get is, he shivered. This is mystery/horror by Ash and Snake. Let's get into it. Okay, and it's giving us our own little unique screen here. So let me make sure that this is like visible to y'all, because I think it'll be more fun that way. And it looks like we've got 2 options here. One of them is just to start the game. So we're just gonna roll on through. And it looks like there might be some artwork involved already. So no poll quite yet. It was very white. Oh. Oh, man. Sounds like my high school. No. Here we go. One more again. It was very quiet, and the white of her knuckles made him shiver. Nathan Cross placed a hand over the girl, her tiny fist easily cupped into his long, golden fingers. It was the hospital room he was assigned in, cold and pale in a blend of bland white and the lightest shade of blue. It draped her 8-year-old form as a blanket, her silhouette etched into the sheets. It was indeed very, very quiet. The lively, zagging line of the heart monitor was not giving a quiet tick, nor was it continuously bleeping. The tree scraping against the window was not scraping. It was as if he were deaf. Deaf and dumb. Nathan came to a frightening revelation. Where was he? He was no nurse, no doctor, and he did not know this girl. He was a drywaller, nothing else. And then the 8-year-old's china blue eyes snapped open, little blue lips opening and speaking words so quiet he could not hear them. He leaned down unconsciously to catch but a tiny noise from her lips. It was silent for a brief moment. And then she gripped the sides of his face with still white little fingers and screamed shrilly into his ear. It was very quiet then. All right, first poll is in chat. Like I said, it may take us a while to sort of figure out what the pattern is here, but options are search north, south, east, or west. This page is called Ooze. And Marin Vera says, cannot see Twitch, is being stupid, so I have to use audio only. Hey, audio only is probably going to be just fine for this. I don't think that should worry you too much on this one. Ooze. His eyes snapped open, an unruly haze of confusion spreading across his face and coming out of his mouth in short, frightened gasps. He was no longer in the bland, soft hospital room. There was no longer a blue sheet-laden bed. There was no longer a dainty little girl safely in between the covers. No. This was worse. Horrible. Terrible. The room had but one light hanging in the middle, flickering his grimy surroundings to him in flashes of pools of light. The walls were oozing with wet, waxing maroon, greasy with mold and smeared with something rusted and putrid. He was the same person, Nathan Cross. He knew this for sure. His surroundings were no longer the same, but his body was nothing different of his usual self, except that his reddened ears throbbed from a past echoing screaming, a tight, crisp child's scream. Where was he? Dahlia says, "Oh, this must be Goosebumps. I literally have no idea what we're reading, but I'm making an educated guess. This is a ChooseYourStory.com story. Today is Choose Your Own Adventure, and although I do think Goosebumps probably did some of those, this is a whole different day right here. But okay, it looks like our option is B, and I'm going to give you all a little bit more time with the next one because this page was pretty short and still." It took me longer than a minute, so you're going to get 2 minutes for the next one. But searched the south of the room. Oh, you found a rusty key. What is it for? Oh, we've got an inventory. Oh, cool. Okay. Interesting. I was not aware that this system, this ChooseYourStory.com had an inventory system. Y'all, I think we could potentially have a ton of fun with this website. I think we could have a lot of fun with this website. Okay, so we've got a weird hospital room. We've got I don't know. Do you want to be able to read along with it, or would it be more interesting if I did go and find a like a little piece of backdrop art and throw it up on the screen so that y'all can watch it? Read along is fine? Okay. Yeah, y'all let me know as we decide next. In this case, I think I'm gonna put another poll in chat. We have to abide by the spirit of this thing. And by the way, for future ones, once we get into the rest of these, I'm gonna let y'all vote on which actual ones we're going to do. But let's see, we've got A, C, or D are our options now, because we already went and explored B. But yeah, Goosebumps, Little Lucy. Goosebumps is a series of books that is super popular here in the U.S. It's essentially it's horror books for kids, which sounds like it could, that sounds like a terrible idea on paper, and yet they were really, really popular. People really enjoyed them, and they were written well for what they were, right? They were written adeptly for young people, and I think they ended up being fun rather than an absolutely horrifying idea exposing children to horror stories. But it's just scary stories. Little Lucy says, yeah, I wasn't sure. It sounds amazing. I've read it, but it's called Pesadillas over here. Interesting. There was even a TV show back then in the 90s, I believe. Okay. I think we might have arrived on the same thing. Might have found it. Sandra says that sounds like something for Sidecar. It could well be. Oh, okay. And we've got even keeled. We've got a tie vote for all three of these things. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to search the north end of the room. I found a rusty pipe. Okay, interesting. I'm going to go ahead and grab this rusty pipe, and then we're going to head back. Let's see. I'm just going to go in. Just the first one I see in chat. East or west? Which one are we taking? I'm not doing a poll for this one because I've got a feeling we're just going to end up back here anyway. East or west? Where are we headed? East. All right. Sander, Marinver, thank you. There's a door. Are you sure you want to enter/leave? Again, just first one in chat here. I'll just take the first one. Yes, okay, we're out. We're out of here. Swollen. Nathan took quiet steps from the grimy, red-rusted room and looked around silently. The hall was a one-way only path, doors spreading along the walls. His breath left his lungs. There was something at the end of the hall. Something bubbling and festering. He couldn't tell what it was, but it was groaning in pain, festering and wiggling. It was swollen into a huge ball of flesh, so inflamed that it stuck in the doorway. And sweat, or whatever the hell it was slipping down its apricot skin from its pores, collecting and burning at the brown tile floor. All right. A, B, C, D, or E. I did another short one in here because I made a mistake and I accidentally didn't get to it until halfway through the thing. So I'm going to be better about that. All right. As a matter of fact, let me get this in here as a copy paste that I can just grab and pop in here. Yeah, so this first one, it sounds like we've delved into a horror one. And if y'all want, I can sort of like, I can ping you. I'm going to use, over in Discord, I'm going to use the Book Fair channel. Like I said, we're going to duck out if this delves into R-rated territory. But as long as it's PG-13, I think we're going to try and stick with it. This is supposed to be a shorter one. And then the next one, I really, really liked the sound of A Bard's Tale, because there was a fantastic video game by that title that I played a ton when I was younger. Okay, C or E? C or E, so the second door to the right, or go up to the creature stuck in the hall. I don't feel safe with this thing around, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit that second door on the right. Okay, we've got a single option, so no poll for this one. Shake and shiver, rattled ribs. You walk into the second door on the right, and your eyes immediately dart back and forth, watching. It appears your paranoia is more than you think. Nathan stepped into the room quietly, his eyes staring at the small, misshapen form in the middle of the room. He wasn't sure what it was, but with what he's seen so far, he'd rather not risk his neck over it. Hell, it couldn't be any worse than this. Hell, it couldn't be any worse than his. It turned and looked at him with beady little eyes, its breathing becoming erratic and eerie. It was as if it were afraid of something, but he wasn't one to know the feelings of these sick, demented things. He stepped aside, feeling his heart rattle unsteadily in his ribs. It was moving like a slug toward him, and a moonlit light coming from the window revealed its form further. It was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. He was wrong about everything. It could get worse. Much worse. Hellishly worse. And the sudden realization that the thing was human from the waist up made him shiver and shake. From the bottom down, a revolting mixture of dog and incomplete organs. It opened a wide, slime-ridden mouth, teeth not even yellow but a moldy green. Its words were slurred, almost tearful. You know what? I don't like this one. I just decided. I don't like this one. This one got real dark real quick. I hate to pull the chute on this one so quickly, but hey, we learned the system, and I think we are rapidly headed toward R-rated territory here. So I think I'm gonna bail on this one. Sorry, gang. Okay, but hey, don't worry. Fortunately, that gives us an opportunity to we can head on to something that I think I've got a better idea for. But B, we can head on to something that I think is going to be a bit more fun. Now we can sort of take a look at these and know that perhaps horror is not our thing. And yeah, Dahlia says, like in life, you can say no at any time. Yeah, I think we should, it's a good lesson that we have learned. Let's do Bard's Tale. Yeah, no, definitely, y'all don't need to finish reading stuff just for the sake of it. And that's coming from me, who reads all sorts of stuff on here. You don't gotta finish reading something just because you got it started, okay? Especially if it's uncomfortable for you. So, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be over in Book Fair chat over on Discord, and if we start to get into shaky territory, I will let y'all know over in Book Fair chat that we're starting a new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Starting Bard's Tale. Instead. There we go. Okay, now Bard's Tale is going to be fun, I hope, because there was a fantastic story, a fantastic video game called Bard's Tale, where you were playing as a bard, sort of wandering around and trying to collect different songs. And with these songs, you could summon certain things and control these creatures that you summoned. It was pretty cool. Sandra says, so will we pick another horror one? Because it looks like most of these can be horror stories. I'm willing to duck back into one later, but for right now, just to get things kicked off right, I think I'm going to not. I think I'm going to avoid them for the first couple that we do. Bard's Tale, a fantasy story game by Pug Pup 1. What could be better than a night at the inn, tankard in hand, listening to a bard tell tales of faraway lands and great heroes? His story has it all. brilliant wizards, beastly monsters, and buxom lasses already ready with a smile and a good time. All right? Look, I made up the lasses, but the rest is true. I agree, Orly Rose, and if it does, then we're going to duck out. Like, I think this is, if there was a version of this that allows us to to select by like not R-rated, then we might jump into that. If this one also proves to be R-rated for a different reason, we're gonna find out, aren't we? They did say the lasses were a lie. Here we go, Bard's Tale. Let's get it. The Bard's Tale. Few sights are as cheery as the warm light of an inn on a moonless night, especially when the winds are coming in strong from the north and biting at your skin with icy teeth. You plod straight through the muck and dirty puddles, eager to rest before another day of weary travel. The oaken door is heavy, but a mountain could not stop you this close to warmth. You're not disappointed. The inn is crowded with people of every shape and size. Farmers from the nearby village mix with black-robed monks from the abbey. Not drunken children. Children dart here and there, laughing at the drunken, sodden men that lie senseless in their ale. A handful of scraggly travelers warm themselves by the enormous fire, swapping rumors and tearing into black bread. You take a seat alongside them, nodding a welcome, but with eyes only for the flames. After you can once again feel your hands and feet, does your hunger return? The barman is a squat fellow, red-bearded and seemingly fond of shouting. He takes your coins and shoves a bowl of thick stew toward you. "Welcome," he shouts, "to the Red Lion." The man to your left strikes up a conversation with you about your destination, and the two of you are soon chatting away while you forget the miles ahead tomorrow. Suddenly the room goes silent. No small feat. Even the barman has ceased bellowing to his sons. All eyes are fixed upon the bard, who has just stood, lute in hand, on a central table. He's a curious, almost comical figure, with arms and legs just slightly too long for his body and a shock of white hair that cascades down his shoulders like a waterfall. His voice, however, is low and clear, and it's not hard to see why all await the performance so eagerly. The bard strums a few notes, coughs twice, and begins his tale. "100 years ago or more, when good King Freolaf did rule, the realm knew peace and never war. His son, the prince, was never cruel. The worthy son, Prince Reginald, had a daughter too, a jewel. The Lady Jane, but 12 years old, our prince did love, his sister sweet. The bond was joyous to behold, but danger came on swiftest feet. From that old fiend, that devilish man, Canterfrax, the Lord of Heat, whose crimes, if I the list began, would stretch from here right to the moon. The demons of the fiery clan all paid homage, danced his tune. He summoned flames with just a wink, brighter than the sun at noon. Upon a plan the mage did think, to win the power he'd long sought, from spells in books with fading ink. The scheme was this: send demons hot to steal the Lady Jane away. All right, and I'm just going to wait for a moment here and let the votes come in, because I know this might be a little wonky. And bind her with a fiendish knot or cast her in a pit to rot. What's the devious plan here? What's the devious plot? And I will probably just launch in and take whatever vote, because I went ahead and set it for 5 minutes thinking this page was going to take me a lot longer. Orly Rose says, I will say, I love bards in general, so I'm excited. Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one, and I think, as far as I can tell, we may be sort of working this poem just in general. Let me see. So it looks like we've got a pretty overwhelming vote for Fiendish Knot up top here. Let me see. Okay. I'm gonna wait for this vote to go down. We're figuring out our system, right? We will come to understand this, how it works eventually. It's gonna be great. And bind her with a fiendish knot. Then Cantifrax would raise his knife of purest silver o'er the maid, to cut away her royal life. Then with the blood spilled from the blade, he'd call a fiend most great, and make a most unholy trade. The lady's soul he'd give with hate, and in return dominion gain, and he would rule. 'Twould be his fate. And so the wizard sought poor Jane, by sending out a demon slave, a minotaur, who with a chain could drag her into far-off cave. Next morn, when Reginald awoke, he knew his sister must he save. The prince picked up his sword and cloak, and rode off from his castle home. But coming to a dead old oak, he knew he could no longer roam. Must choose to go to left or right, down dusty roads found in no tome. If for his sister he would fight, Prince Reginald then chose the path A, that led to the mountains of great height, or B, into the swamps of endless night. What do we think? Just the first thing to pop up in chat here. Again, we're figuring out our system. I'm gonna make these a lot shorter. I think 2 minutes seems like the right option here. I'm seeing some votes for B. All right. Prince Reginald then chose the path into the swamps of endless night. All was dark and damp and fell. The sun was strangled by the trees. For of that fen few tales do tell, although the prince rode on with ease. Not knowing he had lost his way, all at once did something seize his horse's leg. It gave an A. It was the Hydra, poison green, and hidden in the mud it lay. The prince drew out his sword, whose sheen still faintly glimmered in the gloom, and sliced off one of the heads clean. Surely the prince had caused its doom. But look and see the smoke that flies from Hydra's bloody neck in plumes, and see the heads of tiny size that soon grew huge and fell as fear. It gazed at him with doubled eyes, and fought with hate, it quick made clear. The prince attacked with all his might, but this thing from the frontier could not be bested. With one bite it ripped the noble prince apart, and doomed the princess to her plight. Then Cantifrax, he pierced her heart, and gained dominion o'er our land. So goes the tale that tells the start of our submission to his hand. The mage rules still in tyranny, until some hero takes his stand, and makes our kingdom once more free. And so the bard ends his tale. What? Okay, hold on now. Hold on a second. Hold on. A, can we talk about the rhyme scheme here? We've got like an A, B, A, B, B, A, B, A, B, wait, hold on. A, B, A, B, C, B, C, B, and I don't know if this is intentional, but the rhyme scheme in here has really got me thrown off. Am I just crazy, or is this totally wild? All was dark and damp and fell. The sun was strangled by the trees. For of that fen few tales do tell, although the prince rode on with ease. Not knowing he had lost his way, all at once did something seize his horse's leg. It gave a neigh. It was the Hydra, poison green, and hidden in the mud it lay. The prince drew out his sword, whose sheen still faintly glimmered in the gloom, and sliced off one of the heads clean. Surely the prince had caused its doom. But look and see the smoke that flies from Hydra's neck in bloody neck in plumes, and see the heads of tiny size that soon grew huge and fell as fear. Now, see, there we go. This is where it starts to get me. I don't know where this happened, because that should rhyme with plumes if we're going by the pattern. But now we do get this repeated the line after next with clear. I don't know what happened here. Okay, Little Lucy says, looks like the kind of poetry that would be improvised while telling a tale. Maybe that's why there's not quite as much structure. Indeed, I think that might be accurate. Okay, so now we have a different poll to go through in chat here. I would like to know from y'all, do we want to try and explore more of this? Because I think that could definitely be fun. Or do we want to try a new one? This is going to be a really short poll, but question. Let's see. Do we want to hear the Bard's Tale again? Do we want to hear the Bard's New Tale? Or do we want a new adventure? Okay. We can go ahead and vote in chat there. But yeah, just in general, I want to take a look at these kind of in a similar way to how we look at some of our other stuff. I would love to talk about like how this art form can be a lot of fun. I'd love to talk about how the author uses their different tools at their disposal to try and achieve a particular effect. But I mean, just to start with, I kind of like that this one delves into poetry. Like I said, the actual rhyme scheme of it has got me a little thrown off, but I really like that they have gone with literally the tale of a bard here, sitting in this tavern telling how things have come to be. And honestly, this might be I could almost see this being a fun way to do like adventure seeds for one-offs. You know what I mean? For one shots. If we were to use this and say like, okay, here's the history of our little land here. What do we want to like? How do we proceed with this? So you listen to the Bard's Tale and you leave the tavern and then you go out into the world and have some adventure. Gems, the vote it's going to be in Twitch. It's one of the Twitch votes. So if you're watching on mobile, you might have to have a certain bit of the screen open. I think you'll have to be in vertical mode rather than horizontal mode. I believe so. I honestly, even the streams that I do watch, and I don't watch a ton of live streams. We weren't done yet. Oop. I don't watch a ton of live streams, but even the ones that I do, I've never participated in a poll. Like the people that I watch just don't do polls. So on the user end, I actually don't know quite how it looks. But here's the end of that story. And I gotta move this because it seems like the images are all over on the one side. No one speaks. A few ashen faces turn to one another, fearful looks all around. The same thought is on every mind. What on earth can this man, this damned fool, have been thinking, peddling his treasonous idiocy around innocent people? Doesn't he know that Cantifrax has powerful servants? The barman recovers first, clenching his fist and shouts, "Out!" He's trembling. The bard obliges, giving the room one last sly smile before walking out into the cold. You don't know if his tale is true, but if a prince named Reginald once had a chance to stop the wizard's rise, it doesn't matter now. The world is as it is, and no silly, stupid song can change it. After a few minutes, nervous chatter begins in earnest, everyone quick to pretend nothing is wrong. It's unlikely there were demons listening here, at a tiny inn in the outskirts of a tiny village. Surely Cantifrax would be merciful to innocents, to loyal subjects, just as horrified at treason as this mage himself. After an hour or so of this sort of talk, you retire to a small and flea-infested room upstairs. The bard's final words come back to you, just before you drift off to a fitful sleep. Will a hero come someday? A man who could succeed where the noble prince failed and bring down the tyrant? Idle talk, most likely. Tall tales. We did it. I don't feel comfortable until I've got a bit of reference here. I don't feel comfortable leaving comments. I don't want to do that yet. So let's duck back in. Orly Rose says, I like this. And for me, I had a feeling there was an emphasis on rhythm and cadence, not necessarily formal poetry like iambic pentameter, but elements of rhyme, cadence, rhythm, and switch up for effect. The rhymes did go wonky, but it worked. It did, yeah. And I think it's possible that I am just sort of, it may be a pattern that I am not entirely like familiar with. That might be on me. Who knows? Let's find out. And then I guess there's a bit of a question. Do we read the whole thing? I don't think we reread the whole thing. Let's read this as though don't Do we want to change up here at the beginning or at the next scene? Do we want to... and I'm just going to take the first thing I see in chat here. And it's possible that that first thing I see in chat is kind of like just the rough chat consensus is the easier way to do this as opposed to like actually using Twitch polls. We'll find out. Again, this is a new thing that, like I said, I wouldn't mind doing this more often because I think this website could be a lot of fun to work with. So we are in this tavern. We're rewinding a bit. We're in this tavern. Welcome to the Red Lion. And you strike up a conversation with someone on your left, and then a bard gets up and starts to sing. Or perform, I should say. Sandra says, "Am I right in saying the mods cannot make polls?" I think you can. I think you can. My impression is that you can, but that might be an old holdout from the YouTube channel that I've gotten confused. Go ahead and use the /poll command. It just looks like this without the space. Oh, that didn't put anything in chat. That's weird. There. It looks like that, Sander, if you want to give it a shot. Okay, but I am going to read from the beginning here, and then we'll change this second bit, and then we're going to get into it. 100 years ago or more, when good King Freylaf did rule, the realm knew peace and never war. His son, the prince, was never cruel. The worthy son, Prince Reginald. He had a daughter too, a jewel. The Lady Jane, but 12 years old. Our prince did love his sister sweet, their bond was joyous to behold. But danger came on swiftest feet. From that old fiend, that devilish man, Canterfrax, the Lord of Heat, whose crimes, if I the list began, would stretch from here right to the moon. The demons of the fiery clan all paid him homage, danced his tune. He summoned flames with just a wink, brighter than the sun at noon. Upon a plan the mage did think, to win the power he'd long sought, from spells in books with fading ink. The scheme was this, send demons hot, to steal the Lady Jane away, and cast her in a pit to rot. This is not my typical... Typically, I like to roll with this pretty smooth and have this thing just like, you know, roll right on through, but maybe all the audience interaction. I've got a new poll in chat there. Get on there. Then he would come with foul intent to rescue her and make her think he was an old and kindly gent. From there the mage would worm and wink with all his slimy magic skill until her sovereign mind would sink beneath his domineering will. So quick as lightning conjured he a dreadful dragon trained to kill. From there the plan went perfectly. The Lady Jane was caught, and then old Canterfrax emerged to free her from the wicked worm again. He spoke to her with words most kind, and being little more than 10, she trusted him, and so was blind. But then the Lady Jane did ask the mage if he would help her find her castle home, and to this task he was most happy to assist. A pinch of powder from his flask, and magic words he did enlist, to bring them to an instant to the castle walls rising through mist. She thanked him, and her feeling grew, so that he thought of him as best of men, and bade him come to see her soon. But Canterfrax was in no mood to once again delay his goal, and so his mind, before so shrewd, submitted to his raging soul. He cursed and spat at Lady Jane with all the kindness of a troll. The princess in her heart felt pain to see her saviour so transformed into this angry thing. In vain she sought to calm the mighty storm, erupting from the once wise mage, reduced now to pathetic form. Bent over with impatient rage, the spittle flew out from his maw. He looked more fit to fill a cage in some menagerie with straw to be his bed and hate his feed. As minutes passed, the lady saw the mage began to shrink indeed, until with every frenzied cry his human nature did recede, till soon enough he was a fly, who could do naught but buzz about. But wait, what's that? You ask me why? There is in my mind little doubt that we can blame his rage and hate for how old Canterfrax turned out. And so the bard ends his tale. the hateful fly. All around you, the inn bursts into applause. The bard bows low before clambering down from his table and slipping out of sight. No one was quite expecting that ending, strange as it was, and no one is likely to forget it either. You chuckle at the abundance of flies buzzing around the crowded room, landing greedily on sweaty hands and tankards of ale. Perhaps some of them were once great wizards too. The atmosphere is warm, and all eyes are friendly, everyone eager to prove that he is not likely to collapse into a raging insect at any moment. After a couple of hours' talk, you go upstairs, still half singing the last drinking song and reveling in your happiness. Nights like this don't come along often enough, especially for travelers like yourself. Come the morning, you're still whistling, and though you forgot the bard's exact words, you walk with a spring in your step from that night forward. Each buzzing fly reminds you of the cost of foolish anger. And we did it again. Okay. All right, that's another completion. Do we want to mess with this one again, or do we want to find a new adventure to try and take? No poll this time. I'm just going to see what pops up in chat here. Orly Rose says, all right, does the rhyme scheme stay consistent to the last one in this example? Because now I'm really curious if it's actually a pattern. Orly Rose, I went ahead and took some, not liberties, but like I sort of tried to roll with it. Orly Rose says, are there others by this author? And Gems is thinking maybe a new one. Ashes, I'm seeing maybe a new one. New Adventure sounds fine from Little Lucy. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to answer your question, Orly Rose, but I don't know that we're necessarily going to start with one by this author. Ooh, Pug Pup 1, the dramatist. He can't think, he can't write, he has no discernible talent, is his bio. Let's see, we've got Father Leofwine is dead, The Bard's Tale. The Butter Bear. Hold on. The Butter Bear is friendly. He's adventurous, and he's got butter in his hair. You never know what will happen when you meet him, but it will be an adventure that you never forget. Originally started for a children's contest, but finished much later. This is very much a children's story, but I hope it's entertaining for adults. The Demonologists sounds pretty interesting. Demons have preyed upon humans since the fall of man, but in the civilized world they must first fight the demonologists. Armed with knowledge, they wield learning and magic to protect the innocent from the dark spirits that would do them harm. It has been your dream to join them, to study at their college and then go forth to do battle with infernal warriors, but lately you've had to contend with other dreams. Nightmares of a mysterious woman, pale and strange and beautiful. Who is she, and what role will she play in the great unfolding drama of the demonologists? Interesting. Interesting. So there you go. Pug Pup 1. Pug Pup 1 is the username you're looking for there. Pug Pup, you've done something good here. I like this. And it seems like you've had a pretty solid success with only 4 story games. Like you have earned some accolades with only 4 of them on the board. Okay, fantastic. It does sound a little bit like Shadowhunters. I'm not super familiar with Shadowhunters, but I know a bit. Okay, so let's see. The Bard's Tale. How long was the Bard's Tale? Because I think that might give us an idea of like how our am I not going to be able to find out what happened here? Where did it go? It was on here. How far down did I scroll? Okay, never mind. We're close enough on it. Okay, very short. Okay. So, now, folks, I want to see which ones y'all suggest, and I think for this next one, let's try to not go with Twitch polls. I think I'm just going to take, like, a quick sort of straw poll of the options, because I'm having a hard time balancing, like, I don't want to force y'all to make a decision when we're only halfway through the page and we don't even know what option A is versus option B. When the music's over, let's see. Okay, that's a really easy one, but a bit longer. I think I'm cool with that one. What do we think about that? Sander, yeah, it's a matter of timing, honestly, more than anything else. Because I could definitely make them. It would be easier for me to copy and paste the different options so that we can actually see what they are. Although that'll hit our character count. I think let's try this next one with no polls, and instead we'll just have you just put a comment in chat that will indicate what you want to try to do next. Do try to limit it. Instead of like, I want to use option A, go down the hallway. Just go ahead and say option A, B, C, or D. Yes. Yep, Orly Rose. Yep, you'll just be voting there, and I will take the one that looks like it's winning. Of course, I may be wrong, but at the end of the day, I think we'll be fine. Okay, and that'll make it easier for the folks because I do think these Twitch polls are kind of unnecessarily complicated. Once again, I do miss Mixer. I could build a whole panel for this that would be super easy to use. Ugh. Okay. You know what? Gems has said when the music's over, and I think I like the sound of that. Once again, if we delve into R-rated territory, we're gonna move along, but I think let's give this one a shot. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to be intentional about not actually clicking through. I want to open up a new tab every time so I don't lose my spot. So let's see. It was up here, I want to say. I definitely think Paradise Violated is probably not on our list tonight. Oh, shoot. Where'd it go? When the music's over. Here we go. I'll pop that into a new tab. There we go. Yeah, I know, Orly Rose. I wish anyone but Facebook had got their filthy mitts on. I mean, I guess maybe like the Drudge Report would have been worse, but other than that, I don't know. Let me see. Okay. When the Music's Over, a fantasy story game by Chris113022. Commended by Mizal. I hear a very gentle sound. Once you were the bravest hero in the land, then the greatest noble, now a washed-up drunkard past his prime. But when the king asks you to turn the tide of a war, will you accept or cast his offer aside and walk your own path? Author's notes. I originally intended for every single choice to branch out into a unique path, but to get this out I had to cut a few of my plans short. There is minor rebranching here, and there are, along the way, a few duplicate pages that have minor changes depending on how much you reached in those pages. On top of that, the path is for accepting the... you know what? This is some deep stuff that I think I probably don't need to jump into. I don't want any spoilers here. The score variable does not indicate how good you did. It's just a way to keep track of what ending the reader got. Okay, gotcha. And a special thanks to Tim36D, Mizal, ShadowDrake27, the CYS Discord, and the entire CYS community. Interesting. Omnidirectional vitriol spewers. Okay, so I probably won't jump in there. They've got a Discord, but I probably won't be in there. Okay, let's do this thing. When the music is over. That's a heck of a sword right there. Turn out the lights. Okay, that's our first option. And this is definitely a longer story, so buckle up, y'all. Let's see where it takes us. Overture. Once upon a time, you were called the greatest hero to ever live. You must have been 19 at the time, fresh-faced, hot-headed, and too dumb for your own good. With sword in hand, you set out with your childhood friends to save the world from an evil wizard. Damn. You can't even remember his name. Someone bent on enslaving mankind. When you left home, there were 5 of you. A mage, a rogue, a bard, a healer, and yourself, a fighter. The 6-month-long journey to the wizard's tower was filled with happy times. Light-hearted misadventures as you all prepared for fortune and glory. When you reached the tower, the mood quickly changed. Your bard fell to a herd of undead that ambushed you at the entrance. The healer took a poison dart to the throat of the 4th floor, while the rogue was burned to ash by a pyromancer on the 17th floor. Yourself and the mage were all that remained when you reached the 20th and final floor, and she was cut down halfway through the fight with the wizard. When the dust cleared and all was quiet, you were the last one standing. You returned home a year after you had left it. The villagers showered you in praise for killing the wizard, and word reached the nobles in cities far away that the evil wizard had been defeated. They held a feast in your honor. They showered you with gold and gave you a title and a manor and an army of servants. Women wanted you, men wanted to be you, but it was all hollow. You played along for the first 10 years, finding little joy in the newfound fortune and glory that you had longed for. It wasn't until the writers and artists began to touch your quest that you finally shut yourself in. It started innocently enough. sanitized children's tales about the exploits of you and your allies, but soon it became epic poems and romanticized paintings. One by one, your friends disappeared from the fictionalized tales of your quest until it was just you, the knight in shining armor, slaying the vile wizard with your enchanted blade. That was when you finally shut yourself in, to hide from the common folk and their damning praise, from the artists and their bastardized accounts. For 5 years, the only place you would go was the tavern down the road from your estate, where you'd planned to waste the rest of your days drinking until you couldn't remember your regrets. It didn't work. Just as luck would have it, you were recognized one day, and soon people were flocking to the pub like moths to a torch, all in hopes of meeting you, the legendary hero. In these last 5 years, you've stayed locked up in the master bedroom of your manor. You ordered your butler to bring you 10 bottles of wine and 3 loaves of bread in the morning, leaving you until the next day. No one can enter your room save the butler, and if anyone does, you make sure to scare them off by grabbing your old sword and flailing it around while yelling drunkenly at them. It's a fitting end for a man regarded as the greatest hero ever to live, locking himself away in the home gifted to him, drinking wine and eating bread and waiting out the day he finally dies. Your latest quest begins not with the destruction of your manor or the death of someone close to you, but rather with a letter. Bertrand, your loyal servant, comes to your room in the early morning hours to drop off today's dosage of bread and wine. But on the platter, tucked in between 2 loaves of bread, is a letter. The seal is emblazoned with the royal coat of arms. You eye Bertrand warily, and the old man gives a sigh. "Apologies, my lord. A knight came to the manor this morning, and he requested I pass this along to you. The knight said that's an invitation to the royal castle from the king himself. I suggest you read it." With a sigh of your own, you rip open the envelope and unfold the letter, taking a look at the contents. "Dear sir, I have need of a man of your talents. There are important matters to discuss regarding the ongoing war between the Kingdom of Oren and the Empire of Kishak. You must report to the Castle Oren as soon as you may, though I urge you to arrive soon. If a week has passed without word from you, then I'm afraid I must send my men to acquire you immediately. I hope that you will come. Regards, King Walter III." You scoff at the letter. The bastard king sitting on his throne while his dogs do the work. You suppose he considers you one of them. The question lies in whether you are indeed one of the dogs that mindlessly obeys orders, or whether you will break from the pack and carve your own path. We've got a couple of options. Option A, damn the king, he holds no power over me. Or option B, I've nothing better to do, I'll go to Castle Oren. All right, and I'm going to give it a couple of options here, but I will say it's got my brain all mucked up now to be looking at this and not trying to read this in poetry. It's still fantasy setting. It's still talking about, wizards and knights and all this sort of stuff. And so now I'm trying to look for the rhymes in there, and there aren't any. So it took me most of that page to sort of get out of that pattern. It looks like we've got some consensus for B. I've got nothing better to do. I'll go to Castle Oren. Jumped at the call. You shake your head slightly before shrugging. By the way, everyone, I have a suggestion. I don't know when we're going to encounter new voices, but I'm not saying I'll always take them, but if you hear a new name, essentially. So we had Bertrand pop up, and I just picked a voice and went with it. If you hear a new name pop up, and you want to go ahead and throw in, like, Bertrand equals Hank Azaria, or Bertrand equals Christopher Fallen, go ahead and do so. Try to make it like... No, I'm not even going to put any stipulations on it. Not going to do it. So if you hear a new name pop up and it seems like maybe they're going to have some speaking lines and you want to suggest somebody, like I said, I might not always go for it, but I probably will. Orly Rose says my vote will always be anyone Irish. Okay, let's see. You shake your head slightly before shrugging. There's not much to do with your day, and at the very least, this is something. Okay, so we've had to vote for someone Irish, so I'm going to go ahead and use an Irish voice for our adventurer here. Bertrand, you say, get back in my things. I'm going to Castle Oran at dawn. Your servant seems very surprised by this, but immediately leaves the room to get a knapsack for you. He comes back not long after and begins packing the essentials. Changes of clothes, a tinderbox from the dresser, lantern oil, along with some bread and wine that he came to give you. He nods to you, taking the knapsack. I'll pack it in the carriage, sir. In the morning, we'll go. With those words, he leaves the room. You sigh before popping open the remaining bottle of wine and beginning your daily routine. By nightfall, not a drop remains of the wine nor a crumb of the bread. The weight of the situation hangs heavily on you. Tomorrow, you're going to leave your home for the first time in years to fight a war that isn't yours, to fight for a man who will never care for you. It's enough to make you reconsider your plans. Almost. At least this is something you can use your talents for. 20 years and your blade hasn't tasted a drop of blood. You feel as though you're getting rusty, that your time is long past, and that it would be best to turn this offer down. No, you need to prove yourself. To prove to yourself that you can still do this. Age means nothing for a person with your raw strength and skill, and you could kill 4 times as many men as a soldier half your age and twice your size. You were always told you had a warrior's heart. Soon you shall reaffirm it once and for all. When the sun dawns on the horizon, you get up and get dressed in practical clothing. Then you grab your old sword, giving it an experimental swing at the air. It's large, only a bit shorter than your tall frame, and almost as wide as your torso. A great sword that no man but you could wield. After hooking it onto your back, you head down to where your carriage is stored. Bertrand is already there, waiting for you in the driver's seat. I've packed some of my things as well, sir. Hope you don't mind me coming with you, he says. You nod, getting into the passenger's seat. He spurs the horses into action with the reins, and the two of you begin the ride to Castle Oran. You pass through a town on the way there and pass by several small hamlets. The sun is high in the sky, and when you see something on the horizon, a group of men sifting through a broken-down carriage on the road. The men are dressed in fur and hides and have chipped and dented axes at their sides. Highwaymen, bandits who prey on anyone daring to go from one place to another by the main roads. Makes you sick just to look at them. Then you hear a woman scream from the carriage. A noble lady in fine clothing runs from the carriage, screaming all the while. The highwaymen chase after her, abandoning the carriage. You grip your blade. Option A for chat. And then you jump out and chase after the bandits, intent on killing them. Or option B, let it go. Best to get out of here while they're gone. What do we think, folks? A or B? Tally-ho! Boy, I feel like we almost have to write one of these, don't we? This just seems like it could be a really fun site. Go ahead, just write A or B in chat. We're trying a version with no Twitch poll. By the way, one of these lines ends in the word sky, and another one, 2 lines down, ends in the word sides. And I was just barely free of the the grip of the poetry from the last one, and now it's got me back in. I'm just thinking in poetry terms now. All right, we got a bit of a tie in chat now. Whoever jumps in is gonna decide this one. One more vote. All right. Jump out and chase after the bandits, intent on killing them. Damn these sick bastards, robbing and killing the innocent. You jump out of the carriage and begin to chase after them. Faintly, you hear Bertrand yelling at you, but the pounding of your head as a cold rage runs through you, blocks out any sounds but the woman's screams. You chase the highwaymen down. It doesn't take you long. You find them just as one tackles the noble woman to the ground. The other hasn't noticed you yet. You draw your blade, making sure that the chain keeping it tied to your back clinks loud enough for them to hear. They whip around, glaring at you. Their eyes hold a mixture of primal rage and fear. One bears rotting yellow teeth at you, snarling like a dog. You put both your hands on the sword, keeping a firm grip on it, waiting for them to make the first move. You don't have to wait long, as Yellow Teeth runs at you screaming, flailing two axes around as though he's a barbarian from the northern wildlands. As smoothly as you sidestep his charge, then you bring your sword down at his legs. He goes flying. The other three highwaymen stare at their dying ally as fear overcomes their rage. You draw your sword back and swing at nothing, the blood flaying off. Droplets land on their faces. "Leave the woman alone, or it'll wind up like your friend," you say. To seal your threat, you take a step forward, and they immediately back off and begin running. You draw a dagger from your boot, stabbing it into the dying bandit as you approach the woman to make sure she's okay. "You hurt?" you ask, kneeling down next to the noble woman as she lays on the ground. She's hyperventilating, looking around with wild eyes and turning over and vomiting on the grass. You pat her on the back to help her get it out and shake your head. "It's normal for the first few times something like that happens. Once the adrenaline wears off, you'll feel sick to your stomach. Get up." You offer a hand, which she accepts.
"Thank you. Thank you, sir. I can never repay you. Those thugs attacked my carriage, killed my driver, and stole all my valuables. I don't know how I can make it home."
She sighs, shaking her head.
"I'll just have to walk, I suppose."
"Where were you going?" you ask, already wishing you hadn't.
"Elkstone Keep. Have you heard of it?"
You have, actually. It was one of the stops on your journey 20 years ago. And it is in very much the opposite direction of Castle Oren, about 200 miles away, in fact. You'd have to arrive much later or even cancel your trip if you were to escort her. Option A! Damn it all, I'm just too soft for my own good. I offer to escort her. Option B! I'll just have to wish her luck and give her directions to the nearest town. There's your options, folks. Which one do you choose? What do you like? And, yeah, I mean, I think this would be a fun thing to do on a stream at some point, is make a little short one of these and then sort of see where it takes us. But if y'all want to jump in here and explore this of your own accord, chooseyourstory.com. Once again, we've got a tie to break. And don't forget, anybody can jump in here on chat and throw down a vote here. By the way, your boy Pear, I've just seen that you have jumped in with a follow, so thank you very much. I appreciate you. Welcome to Scooter Patrol. It's good to have you. You have just become a punk ruffian, whether you knew it or not. Okay. We've got a tie in chat, but I may just break it myself if I don't see another option pop up here. Too soft for my own good. I'll escort her or just give her directions to the nearest town. Now, I don't know which one of these is going to turn out well, but there might be a difference between the one that turns out the best and the one that provides us the most interesting story. As a matter of fact, I find that is often the case. But, you know what? We seem like we're sort of taking the noble option thus far. No sense on sort of saving her if we're just going to send her off. I mean, the bandits can't be that far away, right? So I think I'm going to go with A on this one. Too soft for my own good. I'll offer to escort her. A grand detour. By the way, can we talk about this really quick? 200 miles? That's not a detour. That's like, I mean, how much travel is that? 200 miles is quite a bit. That's going to take a long time. But you mull it over for a moment before groaning internally at how soft you've gotten. I can drive you. It's far out of the way of my destination, but I need to see you safe. Perhaps that was a bit too much, but the woman gives you a very shaky yet radiant smile somehow.
"You will, sir? Oh, thank you."
She leaps up and gives you a bear hug. Your arms stay limp at your side. By the way, folks, as you can hear, I've done a lot of talking this week, and my high pitched voice is gone. There's no. I was kind of going for a little bit of a Hermione thing here, and you can hear I just can't touch it. It's too far up. It's too far up, and I've done too much talking. That's okay. You wait a moment for her to let go. Then another. Then one more. Finally, fed up with this contact, you push her arms off of you. We must get going, you say. She nods, withdrawing from you and falling into step as you walk back to your carriage.
What's your name?
She asked.
I'm Lady Carolyn of House Rorans, fairest lady of the Western Woodlands.
Kit of Droberg, you reply, shaking your head slightly at the woman's title.
Kit of Droberg? Are you not the same Kit that saved our kingdom 2 decades ago?
The one and only. And before you start, don't you dare start worshipping the ground I walk on.
Wouldn't dream of it, Sir Kit. It's an honour to meet you.
The conversation drifts off just as the two of you reach the carriage. Bertrand is keeping watch, having dug a crossbow out of the back of the carriage. You ready to get going, sir? He asks, but you shake your head. Change of plans. We need to make sure Lady Caroline here gets safely to her destination. Elkstern Keep, about 200 miles west. Bertrand's eyes practically bulge out of his head, yet he keeps his voice level and calm. That's far from Castle Orange, sir. I know, you say, grunting as you climb into the carriage. But I'm sure the king will understand our tardiness. You wait for Caroline to get back. Then you turn to Bertrand. Let's get going, eh? He sighs before nodding. Spurring the horses on, Bertrand turns the carriage around and begins heading west, in the direction of Elkstern Keep. You have a ways to go, but you know that you made the right choice in doing this. The carriage carries you into the horizon. The ride to Elkstern Keep is mostly quiet. Occasionally, Caroline tries to break the silence in an attempt to get to know you, but your grunts and shrugs to her questions discourage her. Bertrand stays silent every time she tries to talk to him. She probably wasn't expecting something like this, but at the very least, she's getting to her destination in one piece this way. A few hours later, you're forced to stop for the night. You use your sword to cut down a small tree, splitting it up into smaller logs to build a fire. As the fire rages, Bertrand sets a few strips of meat on a small metal pan and holds it over the fire. The only sound is the crackling of the fire and the sizzling of the meats. That is, until Caroline decides to speak up.
So, where were you two going before you picked me up?
She asks. Castle Oran, you reply.
Castle Oran? I was just leaving there. I was negotiating with the king. He wants to buy some land near Elkstern Keep that's under my domain. He was talking about building a second castle there.
It is Bertrand who replies, Why would he want to do that? Caroline shrugs her shoulders.
I don't know. Castle Oran is rather old, but it's in great condition. Maybe the king wants to relocate.
It could be because of the war, you suggest.
I've heard the war has been going as it usually does. No real advances on either side, just an uneasy stalemate, occasionally breaking out into a scuffle over the border towns.
Perhaps the king fears it won't be like that for long, and wants to fall back. Castle Oran's only a few miles from the border, after all.
Fair point.
Bertrand pulls the pan away from the fire and the strips are done cooking. He takes a few strips of meat in hand and passes the pan to you. You do the same and then pass the pan to Caroline, who looks at it strangely. Aren't you going to eat? You ask.
Yes, I'm just not used to this at all.
She hesitantly plucks a strip from the pan, giving it a cautious nibble. She sets the pan down on the ground and continues nibbling slowly on the strip of meat. By the time she's finished her first one, you've finished for a few minutes, and you're laying down to sleep. In the morning, the three of you pack up your things and get back in the carriage. You estimate that you're about a week's ride from Elkstern Keep. If you keep this pace up, maybe you and Bertrand can alternate between driving the carriage while the other one sleeps in the back to make the most out of time you have. It's about midday when Carolyn finally pipes up from the back.
So, tell me, why were you going to Castle Oren?
Feeling in a generous mood today, you reply, "To meet the king." Carolyn laughs.
Well, of course you were going to meet the king, but why were you meeting him?
He wanted my help with the war effort. Drive the Kishak back to their own country.
Really?
Yes.
I suppose there's no one who could do the job better. That man the other day, I take it he wasn't the first one that you've killed.
Wasn't the first. Likely he won't be the last. She's quiet for a moment, likely considering your answer before piping up again.
What was the first one like?
You consider that question for a moment. Your first kill. You haven't thought back to that day in a long time. It was about a week into your journey, and you and your companions had gotten into quite a bit of trouble. A group of marauders, vicious barbarians and raiders, had ambushed you on the road. They weren't interested in killing you, like most. Now they had something worse in mind. You can remember the screams. Just a kid, a year younger than you were, had his whole life ahead of him. They tortured him and took their time. Used a jagged rock. Lasted for hours. Felt like years. When the screaming stopped, they were still going. You would have been next, and fortunately for you, they got distracted and left a single guard there. You still remember the way he struggled under your firm grip? Busted down the rusty cage door and charged right for him. Tackled him next to the fire. Choked him for a bit, and then proved to be taking too long, so you grabbed the pot of boiling water over the fire. You poured it on him, and the scalding hot water ruined his face as he screamed louder than the boy did. You shut him up by smashing his skull with the pot. When you freed your friends and escaped, they didn't look at you the same way for a while. You did what you had to do. You knew that. They knew that. 2 weeks had passed when they started acting normal again, but you remember the looks in their eyes, the fear they had held. That day you proved what you were capable of, and they were terrified of you until the day they died. You wished you could take it all back.
Sir Kit, were you going to tell me...
Carolyn's voice snaps you out of your recollection. She looks concerned.
You've been spaced out for a few minutes.
Stop.
What?
Stop. Stop asking questions you don't want to know the answers to. For a moment, there's silence. Then you hear the cover of the wagon being drawn back, indicating that Carolyn has retreated back into it. You sigh and then dig the wine out of your knapsack. You need it. Bertrand doesn't ask questions when he sees you drinking, just nods and continues driving. The next day of your trip goes by quietly. There's nothing but the open road ahead of you. Any travelers pass you by without a second thought, and aside from Bertrand and Carolyn, you haven't interacted with anyone since the highwayman. It's peaceful. Almost too peaceful. Usually it means something will happen, and it comes when you least expect it. Of course, your gut is right on this one. On the third day of traveling, just a day or so away from Elkstern Keep, you come across a bridge and force Bertrand to stop. The bridge is large, wide enough to fit 3 carriages side by side and about half a mile long. It stretches over a canyon, a long drop into a rapid river below. You see men in ragged clothing milling about. They haven't seen you yet, but if you move forward, they will. By their looks, they won't be too friendly. If you try going around, you'd lose a day of time. Safer, yes, but you really just want this to be over and done with. The bridge is risky, but you're sure you can defend the carriage. You look at Bertrand and nod. Keep going. He nods, spurring the horses into gear. You think that will meet any opposition, sir? Not sure. Probably, though. Keep that crossbow ready. Bertrand nods and grabs the crossbow with one hand, keeping the other in the reins. The carriage continues on, heading toward the bridge. You draw closer to the men, who turn their heads and finally see you. Quickly, they start moving, grabbing weapons and preparing for you to come by. You notice one poking his head out. Take that one out. You point him out to Bertrand, who shifts the crossbow and fires. The bolt flies true, hitting the man in the forehead. He slumps over, and his companions immediately open fire with a volley of arrows and bolts. You hold the flat of your sword up, using it as a makeshift shield. You and Bertrand are spared from most of them, but an arrow manages to hit him in the leg. Shit! You shout, and then jump off the carriage and begin sprinting toward the men. They shift their focus from the carriage to you, firing more arrows and bolts in your direction. You keep your sword raised to deflect any projectiles coming your way, and through sheer luck, you manage to get the men with only the faintest grazes to show for it. They back off and drop their ranged weapons, readying knives and rusty swords. You swiftly dodge the first thing that comes your way, and then backhand the man who attacked. He staggers back with a split lip, and you move in fast, smashing his face with the pommel of your sword. He falls to the ground, dropping his sword and clutching at his broken nose. You don't have time to finish him off, as another one comes your way with a blade, and then another, and another. Raising your blade, you deflect most of the blows and dodge the others. However, one of the bridge men gets a lucky hit through, cutting your side. You hiss in pain, but push on. Quickly jumping back, you assess the situation. There's still more down this way, keeping crossbows and longbows at the ready. Well, there's a group of about 6 heading right for you. They're all clustered up close, as though they believe that will make it harder for you. If anything, it'll make it easier. You rear your sword back, waiting for them to get close enough. And then, you swing. The massive blade cuts through 3 before it gets stuck in the 4th one. The 3 you manage to hit fall to the floor, flecks of blood spraying onto you and the remaining allies. You pull your sword out of the 4th man, who falls to his knees and screams before swinging yet again. His cries are cut off as the blade cuts through him. You pant, catching your breath. You don't have long enough as a bolt flies true and lands in your shoulder. You stumble back with a curse and nearly fall into the canyon if it weren't for the rail you grabbed onto. A horn pierces the quiet of the bridge, and you know what that means. They're calling for reinforcements. You're not sure if you can take these men on, let alone more. The river seems awfully tempting. Maybe you can survive the fall and be carried away to some place safer. Option A. No, I have to defend my companions. I'll fight as long as I have to. Option B. They're on their own. I'm getting out of here while I still can. What do we think, chat? Which one are we going with? What do we got? Let's see. All right. We've got 2 votes for A. I'm going to defend my companion. I'll fight as long as I have to. But yes, good courage. Yes, this is very much an Aragorn moment. You steel yourself and stumble away from the edge of the bridge. No. You're not going to let them down. Using that stored up adrenaline within you, you push forward with a primal yell, charging straight for the archers. They fire at you, but you ignore the arrows and bolts flying your way. Occasionally, one manages to graze you. A scant few even hit you, but you ignore it the best you can. You've got a fight to win. The first one loses his head. The second, his arms. Then you stab through the chest. The third one drops his crossbow as if in surrender, but meets his end all the same. You continue on like this, no longer seeing men, but instead an army of targets you need to tear down. Halfway through these, more targets come running down the bridge. You finish off the remaining archers, then ready yourself in preparation for the others. You're not sure how long the fight lasts. All you know is that by the end of it, you're using your sword to keep yourself standing. The carriage slows to a stop, and Bertrand hops off to help you onto the back of the wagon. You're still on edge enough that you snarl at him like a wild hound defending its territory. He doesn't back off, and soon you are lying on the floor in the back of the wagon. A woman is there, digging through your supplies to pull out a roll of bandages. Carolyn. She sets to work immediately, pulling out bolts and arrows and wrapping them up as best she can. Her hands are left bloodied from the work, but in the end you're much better off than you were. She smiles.
You'll get proper healing at Elkstone Keep.
She continues speaking, but the words fade away as you slip into unconsciousness. When you wake up, it's in a bed. You're covered in bandages, and though your body aches, it seems your wounds are gone. There must be a healer here. In the bed to your right, a person stirs, and you shift to get a good look at them. There lays Bertrand, flipping through a leather-bound book.
"I see that you're still alive, sir,"
he says, dog-earing the page that he's on and closing the book.
"Sorry to disappoint you,"
you chuckle. A small laugh escapes Bertrand's lips.
"No, sir, I'm happy to see that you're still among us."
He pauses.
"We got here yesterday afternoon, sir. The healer set to work immediately. You'll be okay if you rest for a few days."
"Is that so? Where's Caroline?"
"She's still here, sir. I cleared her chambers. She said that she'd come to visit later."
"All right." You sigh and close your eyes. You made it to Elkstone Keep, and you and Bertrand are still relatively intact. You consider what you should do now. You'll be extremely late for your meeting at Castle Oren. The king may not like it, but if he truly needed you, he'd excuse it. Still, something about this felt better than fighting some meaningless war you've got no investment in. Maybe you must have been thinking for much longer than you thought you were, as Carolyn steps into the infirmary and immediately gives Bertrand a bear hug. Your servant pats her slowly on the back, and she breaks away after a moment to move toward you. The hug is so tight it makes the aching turn to a sharp sting, and you hiss in pain. Carolyn withdraws.
"I'm so glad you two are all right. Thank you for all that you've done for me. I can't repay you,"
she says. You wave your hand and shake your head.
No, everything's fine. Just letting us rest here a few days is good enough."
She gives a worried look.
"Are you sure? I can give you supplies or money or—"
"Nothing. No, it's fine. Thanks for visiting us."
Carolyn nods. The three of you talk for a while, though it's mostly about her thanking you profusely and continually offering help, which you turn down. After about an hour, a man comes in and informs her she's needed in the entrance hall. Carolyn sighs, but nods at the man. Before she leaves, she turns to you and Bertrand one last time.
"I know I've been saying it a lot, but thank you. From the bottom of my heart. If you hadn't saved me and escorted me here, I don't know what I would have done."
With those words, she departs. After she leaves, you once again wonder what you'll do now. Option A, maybe I can keep helping people. Damn the king and his war, I'll help people in other ways. Or option B, my plan remains the same. I'll head straight for Castle Oren. I'm sure the king needs me and won't mind. A or B, gang? Pop it in chat. I want to see what you think. This has been interesting thus far. Well written, frankly. I think this has been like... I wasn't sure what to anticipate with the sort of like the reading level / writing level of some of these. But no, this one's been pretty keen so far. The arcs are pretty short, of course, but I think that's part of the genre more than or part of the medium more than it is part of the writing itself. What do we think? Once again, I think Gems is kind of the tie master. Gems jumps in here with... Gems says, I'm crusty today. Yeah, no, Gems is... Like, there's almost always a tie at first, and it's almost always Gems involved with somebody else as well. Okay, let's see. A, B, A, B. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We're divided on this one. I'm gonna give another second to see if somebody else wants to pop in. Just give me an A or a B. A, keep helping people. Oh, we got another one. All right, B it is. Oh, okay. It's starting to look like heavily B. My plans remain the same. I'll head for... straight for Castle Orin. I'm sure the king needs me and won't mind. Orly Rose says, I am absolutely resistant to helping this king fight an impersonal war. No king. Blech. Blech. Oh, we found an ending. Warrior's heart. Yes, the king summoned you, and you won't ignore those summons. Being a wandering hero is appealing, but this way you can help the kingdom in a much more substantial way. Winning a war? You'd save the kingdom and drive the Kishak menace away from it. You'd be a hero yet again. You voice your thoughts to Bertrand. Our plans remain the same. We'll head straight for Castle Orin when we recover. Will I have you at my side, Bertrand? Bertrand nods. Of course, sir. We'll get there and finish this war. You nod your head a few times. Okay. Okay. For now, you have a few days to rest. When you're done, you'll leave Elkstern Keep and head straight for Castle Orin. After all, you have a duty, and you must see it through. The sun is high in the sky. It's a new beginning. And that is the end! What do we think? Do we want to rate this one? Y'all give me a rating in chat here. What do we think? Let's see. It goes from 1 to 8. 1 is stay away, far, far away. 8 is it will bring you enlightenment. Okay, I will say 7 is even better than Reese's Cups, which, I mean, it's toward the top of the scale, so I get it. I think I think it might be appropriate if you truly found it amazing. So yeah, let me know what you think. Just give me a number and I'll average them together. Let me get out my calculator because I don't care to try and mental math this. I know I'm sure some of my overseas friends will be wondering why precisely I would go about doing that. But everyone, we've just reached an ending here. Once we've got depending on how we feel about it, we can either try to go for another ending or we can move on to another adventure, whatever we want to do. But folks, a bit of a reminder here. Frankly, a reminder from Mr. Halfbit, because Mr. Halfbit just jumped on as a patron. Y'all, the reason we're doing this today, why we are spending some time doing some things we don't typically do, this is Book Fair. Welcome to Book Fair, everybody. And Book Fair is a couple of things. First of all, it's an annual chance to try some new things, to try some stuff, to really dedicate a lot of time to streaming for 1 week. It is also the time when all of the things that were patrons only for a while, the things that they've had early access to, all of it becomes available to everyone, because that's how I like to do things. I think I've got a whole article, a whole post that I wrote over on Patreon. It's available to anyone. As a matter of fact, I don't believe there is just about anything over on Patreon from pre-Book Fair times that is currently patrons only. And that's what I'm talking about. Head on over there. There's a ton of stuff that's available only there that is not available to not available elsewhere, but it's available to people who even may not be patrons yet. I want to remind you all that Twitch, the contributions, the way that people can contribute on Twitch, they are great, and they have made for some excellent months, and I can promise you all, I have used that to invest back into Sidecar Stories and all the things that we do here. But Twitch takes a pretty big cut of all of that. I mean, they take 50% of every subscription, for instance. And that's not even the biggest issue. The real big one is that it doesn't necessarily allow me to plan for the future. When I have a big month on Twitch, it's fantastic. But when I've got a monthly pledges over on Patreon, that is what really helps me to decide how much is going to how much I can dedicate time to this. It helps me do my math for, hey, I could potentially start to take another day off of work at my day job and dedicate it to streaming or to editing or whatever it is y'all decide. Because I am going to allow patrons to sort of vote. When I've got a new block of time available, patrons are going to be the ones who get to vote on what I do with that block. Whether it's a regular one or once a month or once a week, what have you. Sandra says the amount of contributions on Patreon almost doubles from the start of Book Fair. Yes, we've had a pretty successful Book Fair thus far, and I hope that y'all will really, I hope y'all will definitely check that out because I've got some interesting stuff over there. First of all, one thing I just realized I should be doing is telling y'all what forms of payment they accept because that can kind of influence decisions a lot of times. I know it does for me, but they will accept credit card, Patreon, credit card, PayPal, Apple Pay, or something called Sofort, which I think is probably pronounced much more like Zofort. It is a payment app which it sounds like it is very sort of very Germanic in territory. It's possible Sander is familiar, but they take those 4 forms of payment. You will have to check out Patreon for like precisely how those work. But we have got a bunch of different tiers that are a lot of fun. We have got at the very lowest tier, you can get a Patreon role that will let you access the private library that is just for patrons. A couple of channels in there, in addition to all of the archived channels. So that can be fun to sort of see some of the history of the Sidecar Stories Discord, which is like it is our oldest and most revered platform, Discord. At the next highest tier, you can get behind-the-scenes peeks at things. You can get the clips from things that I pull out, such as the side karaoke videos. Behind the scenes, I am very soon after Book Fair going to be doing a full tour of this room, this office that I've got now, because it's different now. We had a roommate that moved out, and we decided we were just going to try and use this space to the best that we can. So I have now dubbed this the Chop Shop, and this is the office, and you're going to get a tour of that pretty soon. And that is at the pristine page level. Up at the next tier, we have got the chapter champions, who you're going to get to see some new projects. You are going to be that level is really the ones that want to see Sidecar Stories grow quickly. Y'all are going to be my first line of feedback for new projects, things like the Shelf Confidence podcast, etc. Of course, I'm going to be dedicating more time to that once I've got this editing thing more under my belt. But fortunately, I have edited much of the sort of challenging bits, and now the editing process should be much more comfortable. And come next week, I won't have to be planning for Book Fair anymore. And then finally, we have got we've got the Novel Nouveaux, and then a recently requested level, the the thrilling sequel. No, that doesn't sound right. Hold on, something else sequel. The shocking sequel. There we go. The thrilling trilogy is my plan for the next highest level if we get one. I've had a request for one, but those are going to have extra bits of merch attached to them, but basically all the way top to bottom, you can also go ahead and jump on the sound bites, which if you want to know what that is going to be all about, head on over to our Thursday stream. During the time block that would typically be Percy Jackson, we're doing sound bites, which is y'all can send me a script and I will read it. For Book Fair, it's open to everybody, but throughout the rest of the year, patrons are going to be able to send me a script, and I will read it for sound bites. You can give me voices to read it. You can give me direction. I'm a voice actor. You can be a director. There are some folks on the internet who have done this, like Big Man John, etc., and I think it would be fun for us to try. Your word count is essentially whatever level you're contributing in US dollars. Add 2 zeros to that. And that is their sort of word limit. So at the $25 level, for instance, the Novel Nouveau, you can send me every single month 2,500 word script, whether it's for a short film or even something all the way down to like, hey, I found this really funny tweet or a really funny Tumblr post. Can you just I just really want to hear Hagrid scream this or something like that. So let me see. Sandra says the There's still a few posts, yes, and those are for this book fair, and so those I am probably going to be. Those are probably going to be the things that are available for the folks who wanted to jump in here. Basically everything from pre-book fair, not the date of it, but sort of everything not related to this current book fair is currently open. And then yeah, if you want to see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff for the book fair that we've had here and we are currently having, jump in as a patron. Basically anything at the pristine page level and up is going to get you access to all of that behind the scenes stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Good Courage says, ooh, Sam, I'm going to have fun sending you script requests. Good. I hope that you do. Like I said, it's open to everyone, not limited to patrons for book fair, but in the future, this is something I want to do kind of regularly. I think I will probably be reading them, like as far as when I'll be reading them, I'm imagining before our Percy Jackson streams, just starting Percy Jackson a little bit earlier, maybe an hour earlier. All of that is, the sound bites thing is pending demand. I may have to adjust those based on how it goes down. And then finally, folks, of course, we've got merch now. We've got Sidecar Stories merch. If you want to use the merch command in chat, you can find the very bottom link there is the post that will describe to you what the merch is all about. I finally got pictures of every single one of the items. I'm going to tell you two things. First of all, this is a learning curve both for you and for me. I've never done merch of any kind, and so there's a bit of a learning curve trying to understand how precisely the Patreon system works and just how merch sort of works in general. The second thing is, this is not a merch store. This is not like a Redbubble. I may have something like that in the future, but I'm starting with working with a company that I trust. They have their own system. Basically, their standard system is 3 months at a particular tier. If you complete those, you just automatically get the merch tied to that tier. So all you do is go in there, join at whatever level makes sense for you, if there's a level that makes sense, and you will just automatically get whatever merch comes with that tier. Like I said, I may do additional things in the future, but for right now, we've got a very special sort of patrons system. And if you join during book fair, you are going to get those at the absolute rock bottom tier. After book fair, I'm going to move those merch items back to the sort of Patreon recommended tier, so that I'm not going against the accumulated wisdom of Patreon. But y'all, book fair has been really incredible so far, and now I see we've got some extra folks in here, so let's continue with the adventures, shall we? I think the time that we've had here is pretty fun so far. We got to figure out what our story is going to be next. We've just done When the Music is Over. I think I want to try something non-fantasy if we can find it. Now maybe we can't. Who knows? Sanders says, what is the recommended tier? Patreon recommends that certain items, for instance, the hoodie, it recommends, like, put it at this tier. And I've decided, no, I'm going to put it at a lower tier, and just let people get that at a much lower tier. But I believe you are going to have to be signed up by Friday. I'm not sure about that. It's possible that if you go another couple of days to the very last day of book fair on the 2nd, it's possible you'll still be able to get it at those deals. I do not know. I'm going to find out at the exact same time that you do. So it is possible that if you want to get in on that merch stuff at the special deal level, it's going to come back at the normal level. But for the hoodie, the recommended tier was $35 or over. Right now, I've got it at the $25 level. So check it out. It is featuring, I've got one special design for book fair specifically because I wanted something to commemorate this very first thing. And then the rest feature Chibi Sam, which is an adorable little design by Holly Rose. Ta-da! Ashes. Hello, Ash's cat. What's the name of Ash's cat? Unless you use it for like passwords or something, in which case don't tell me. What's Ash's cat's name? Kitties Unite! Okay, so we're seeing Black Island. Okay, we've got Geek. I don't mind trying a challenging one, but let's try one that's not fantasy based. I don't even know what I want to try, but I want to try one that's just non-fantasy, just because we hit the same one a couple of times, a similar sort of genre. What do we think, folks? And for those of you who are wondering, this is a choose your own adventure stream that I think we could have a lot of fun with in the future. We have got chooseyourstory.com, and we're reading through some of these adventures. We can pick them per category, but I want to stick in this. I don't think we can do this. I mean, let's find out. Let's try. There's edutainment, which is fun. Ooh, maybe fan fiction. I wonder if there's something good in here. See filter options. Yeah, so it doesn't let me search within the rating here. So we'll just have to sort of do a visual search on the rating. Ciara's game. I'm not gonna actual Cannibal LaBeouf. Let me see. I wonder if we'll recognize anything in here. We got Danny Phantom. Dr. Horribles. I want to find something related to one of the things that we've read so far. Oh, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Drone. I don't know what that means. Harry Potter and the Last Riddle. The Last Riddle's rated fairly highly. Not bad. You know what? Do you want to try the Last Riddle? How hard is it? How hard? I mean, it's a 2 and it's reasonably long. I think. You want to try puzzles and games? Okay. All right. What do we want to do, folks? Just let me know. A, puzzles and games, or B, Harry Potter: The Last Riddle. Oh, it'll reorganize, eh? Ooh, Sander. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so that will make things a little bit easier. Okay, we've got some general agreement. General agreement. Not entire agreement, but general agreement. Oh, we got Morgoth's Tyranny, too. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? We're not doing this one yet, but you can bet your butts we're doing it next, gang. Okay, we're gonna find that Harry Potter one again here, but hey, gang, there's a Carmen Sandiego one. How difficult is it? What's the difficulty rating? Oh, there's a maturity level. Okay, good. I didn't see these before. So difficulty is 4 out of 8. The play length is 4 out of 8, and the maturity level is 2 out of 8. Okay, excellent. Death Dahlia. Shh. Don't talk about it. We don't need to expose ourselves here. No one needs to know. All right. Harry Potter, The Last Riddle. Let's do this thing. Mizal seems to be a pretty regular sort of a pretty regular contributor on the recommendations. So, fantasy, mystery, and RPG. This is 3 out of 8. Contains content that might not be suitable for persons under age 10. If this were a movie, it would be between G and PG. Okay, that is really good to know. Hey, y'all, this site is pretty dope. Can we mention? I just want to like put that out there. Choose Your Story, pretty solid. ChooseYourStory.com. Okay, all right, here we go. I really do want to try this one here. But then, yeah, we've definitely got Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego coming up next. Here we go. Oh, interesting. Now, I will say, probably this will involve spoilers for Harry Potter. So, if you are unsure about that, if you want to try and avoid that, this might not be the one for you. You might want to jump back in. Jade says, I've missed most of it. I'm going to have to catch the VOD. But, Jade, you need not fear, because, of course, we are going to be reading different ones all the time. Let's get into this one. And remember, folks, the system is once you see the bottom here, feel free if you read this yourselves and you feel free, you feel comfortable voting, just go ahead and hit me with that A or B, or if there are 3 options, A, B, or C, etc. Of course, I think y'all get it. And if you want to wait, if you're just listening to this until the moments when it's time to vote, and then you jump back on your keyboard, then I will read these out loud as well. But yeah, if you see the options and you're ready to vote, go ahead and do it up. You know what? I need to go back here because I want to be absolutely sure to read off the creators. A fan fiction... Oh, this is Harry Potter, The Last Riddle. A fan fiction story game by Fluttershy Pegasus. Dreams. You walk around the station. It's huge. Larger than anywhere you've seen in your life, with a glass ceiling that reveals a blue, cloudless sky. Suddenly you hear a sobbing. An infant? The sobs echo across the walls. You walk toward the source of the sound, and as you do, the station darkens. No more is the sky blue. Instead, it is as black as night. The only light is the dim rays of the full moon. Finally, you find the infant, lying on the floor. It is an ugly creature. Pitiful, with distorted limbs and a wrinkled, deformed face. Suddenly, you hear more sobbing and turn around. You are surrounded by 7 more infants, identical to this one, all sobbing in unison, their echoing cries of pain filling your mind. As you desperately try to cover your ears, the scene fades. Your alarm rings. Groggily, you reach for the device making the sound and shut it off as your eyes adjust to your surroundings. It is a particularly miserable winter's day. Barely any light shines through the tiny, grimy window as the gray clouds hover in the air, choking out the barest glimpses of the sun. The dusty wooden boards of the floor creak as you get up, and the wardrobe beneath the window towers over you. It's your birthday today, but this fact does not bring much joy with it. Every birthday has been the same. The orphanage caretaker, Mrs. Cole, attempts to cheer you up with her over-the-top positivity, but little can disguise the fact that this day means very little. The Fleece Orphanage cannot afford presents or celebrations, so everything Mrs. Cole does for you must be out of her own pocket. Do you decide to go downstairs to the party, or just stay up here and hope that they forget about you? Option A, just go ahead and throw it into chat, go downstairs, or option B, just stay upstairs and hope everyone forgets about you. Y'all, it feels like we're back. Once again, writing level's pretty solid on this thing. Good courage. What do you? I'm not sure what's pinging you here. It seems like something has gotten your attention very thoroughly, and I'm not picking up what you've got. Okay, we've got A, B. Hey, Crow. Hello. Good to see you. Ooh boy. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we've got a bit of a tie. I'm seeing A, and then I'm seeing B. It's a tie. Oh boy. Okay, so we need somebody in here. Crow says I've been looking sometimes. Oh. Of course, the moment I say it, Jade Dragon pops in and says A, Sander pops in and says B. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna keep it sort of in the Harry Potter familiar territory. Unless somebody jumps in here. Jade Dragon popped in over on Discord, Luis, so it looked like Sander was gonna break the tie, but they literally came at the exact same time. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stay upstairs. Mrs. Cole eventually comes up the stairs and finds you in bed.
I know you're awake,
she says.
Look, I understand it's tough for you, but you have to come downstairs eventually. No, I don't,
you mutter in protest.
Everyone's waiting for you,
she says sadly.
We made a lot of effort to have a surprise birthday, and we can at least pretend that you're surprised, right? Just think about it.
And she walks back downstairs again. You finally decide she was right and go downstairs. You trudge downstairs into the common room of the orphanage. As you open the door, you are greeted to a garish sight. Brightly colored paper chains of pink and purple have been placed over the fading furniture, clashing terribly with it, and Mrs. Cole stands in the center with a huge, obviously forced smile on her face.
Happy birthday,
she says to you, standing by a table with a small cake, unadorned by icing and with a single candle in the center. She's obviously trying her best to sound enthusiastic, but she's clearly not a great actress. The bags under her eyes likely came from her trying to place everything here at night, getting little to no sleep. The children of the orphanage, however, have not made the same effort to seem even slightly excited. Most have a bored expression, though a few actually look angry at you. They had to wake up a few minutes earlier than you did to be present for this surprise. The party goes about as well as you expected. The children complained about not getting enough cake, so you mostly had to go without. That turned out to be a blessing, however, as the cake was not dissimilar to cardboard in terms of flavor. Eventually, you just decide to sit on your own, away from the other children. Mrs. Cole decides to talk to you.
Listen, she says, you've been here longer than any other child at the orphanage, and I know it's been hard for you to see so many others leave while you stay behind. Let me know if you've got any problems at all, and I'll help you. It's no trouble, believe me.
You thank her, but say that there isn't anything you need help with. However, as she gets up, you notice someone in the corner that you did not notice before. A man in a purple robe sits in the corner of the room. He has a small black goatee and a black top hat. What's odd about him, however, is not his dress sense, but rather how no one seems to be paying any kind of attention to him at all. What do you do? Option A, ask the others in the orphanage about the strange man, or option B, confront the man. Do you confront the strange man, or do you wait? Option A is ask about it. B is just confront him. Just head on over there and do the darn thing. Orly Rose says, I'm not sure what he would do. Hearthook, have a good one. Thanks for coming. Ash says, you make an excellent point, but it's possible he has not gotten so bold about that yet. And he liked controls in ones or twos. Interesting. Okay. All right. And I'm seeing a lot of B. We confront the strange man. Let me see. You can see me, he says. You must be the one that I'm here for. My name is Almora Wardson, and I'm here to give you what you are owed. What? You ask, confused. The man takes out an envelope and hands it to you. The envelope has a red wax seal keeping it closed, emblazoned with a strange crest with 4 animals on it. You open the letter, and a piece of old-fashioned parchment comes out. In shock, you realize it is addressed to your name, and you read the rest of the letter. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on 1st of September. We await your owl by no later than 31st of July. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall.
Wizards,
You reply.
magic. What does this mean? Is this supposed to be code for something?
It means exactly what it says, explains Aldmoro, mildly. You have been deemed old enough to understand and make choices. The choice to join our world. You'll be able to learn magic in a controlled setting and find your own place in our society. Nevertheless, as a non-magical person, or a muggle, I understand that you might be skeptical of this. So I am allowed to perform basic acts of magic to prove this to you. No one else in this room, aside from you and me, will notice this trick, as I have cast a spell that confuses the perception of muggles so that their eyes will simply move away from anything deemed unusual. What act of magic should he do to convince you he's telling the truth? Option A, turn your paper plate into a giant butterfly. Option B, turn the decorations into gold. Or option C, make the cake nicer. I like this. Gang. This is fun. ChooseYourStory.com. I got you. I see you. Okay. Got a good one. Okay, I think we've got a pretty solid vote here. Make the cake nicer. All right, fantastic. A resounding consensus here. Good Courage has simply contributed. Good cake. C for cake. Thank you, Good Courage. Let me see. I also want to make sure I'm hitting some stuff here. Hitting the chat. Orly Rose says, "All right, Orly Rose must not nitpick canon. We must not nitpick canon. Indeed, especially not head canon. We just want food." Jade says, "I concur. Gooder the cake. Make the cake more gooder." Now, it was Aldmoro before. Now it's Aldmero. I'm going to go with Aldmoro. Aldmoro taps the wand on the cake, mutters a few words, and suddenly the cake becomes larger, with a wrapped chocolate bar on top and a small cherry stalk and cherry seed. You're amazed, but Aldmoro seems slightly frustrated. I always get something wrong, Aldmoro says. That was meant to become a chocolate gâteau with a cherry on top. Magic can be a bit finicky like that if you're not concentrating strongly enough. Now, he says, this is technically your choice. You can stay here in the orphanage and in the Muggle world. No one will hold it against you, but you will never be allowed to use any kind of magic. Or you can come with me and leave this place behind. I've already told Mrs. Cole, though I have wiped her memory of it, and it will only be restored if you decide to come with me. Option A, agree to go, but ask if you can say goodbye to Mrs. Cole. Or option B, do not agree to go and stay in the Muggle orphanage. Should I stay or should I go? Little Lucy says, let the magic begin! Good Courage says, whatever, they sent up some great value wizard to pick him up. Hey, not everybody can be a Dumbledore. Some people are... I've actually had this thought a lot. It seems like the sort of thing where not everybody would be equally talented in magic. You know, we don't all have Hermione's and everything, but there would have to be magical employment that relied on non-magical skills. Like, for instance, I'll bet Arthur Weasley, his job probably relied quite a bit on his magical skill, but also on, like, his administrative prowess. You know what I mean? All right, let me see. Let's see. Jade says A. Okay, we've got A. Okay. Just to conflict with you all, Sandra says B. I think A. Agree to go, but ask if you can say goodbye to Mrs. Cole. All right, it seems like we're going with Aldmiro at this point on. Aldmoro was what it was before, which is part of the reason I went with this voice. But Aldmiro, we're gonna switch it over to Aldmiro just because it will trip me up otherwise. Very well, says Aldmiro. You may say goodbye, but do not tarry too long. You walk over to Mrs. Cole, your heart beating in your throat, and tell her the news. She gasps.
You're right, she says. There was a man who told me that he would be happy to take you. He even filled out all the paperwork and everything. It must have slipped my mind, how odd. But I suppose I was feeling a little tired, so I'm happy for you. And on your birthday, too. Oh my, I do believe I'll miss you, but that's worth it if you can find a happy home.
You say goodbye, and you leave the orphanage to the cold, bitter winter's morning outside. The cars rush by, and Aldmiro stands there in his purple robe, standing out in the dark and bleak street. Are you ready? Asks Aldmiro, and he holds out his hand. You nod and hold on. Suddenly the world begins to swirl away like a vortex, and everything goes black. Sorry about that, says Aldmiro. I took you here by a deseparation, which tends to be an unpleasant process the first time around, but if I warn people beforehand, they usually hold their breath, which makes the feeling much worse.
It feels like I was forced through a rubber tube,
you say, and look around. Gone are the bleak streets and gloomy skies. Instead, the sun pours down into the old-fashioned cobblestones. A wall appears in front of you, and Aldmiro takes out his wand to tap a pattern in the bricks ahead of him. The bricks move aside, and a great street appears ahead of you. Welcome, says Aldmiro, to Diagon Alley. The street is filled with incredible selections of shops and witches and wizards of all kinds, an apothecary for potion ingredients, a magical menagerie full of otherworldly pets, and more. Now, says Aldmiro, handing you a slip of parchment. Here's a list of all the things that you will need for Hogwarts. He pauses. I have got to go now, and take care of things at Gringotts, but as long as you have got that enchanted parchment, I shall be able to find you again. Do you have any final questions before I go? You decide to tell Aldmiro about the odd dream you had about the infants. He stops, all the color drained from his face. How many infants were there? He asks, unsettled. You tell him there were 9 in total, and this makes him even worse.
What does that mean?
You ask.
Is this common?
No, mutters Admira. No, this is not common at all. It's just that last night I had the same dream as well. The look on his face clears. I'm sure that it's nothing, he says brightly. Just a strange coincidence. It happens all the time. If it's any consolation, I'll look into it a bit further, but it's nothing to worry about. He seems a little too cheerful for your liking, and you're sure this is a front. But with that thought, he vanishes. You take a look at your list. You have to buy a pewter cauldron, a wand, and a set of robes. You've been given enough money from Hogwarts to buy all these things. Before you go anywhere, you probably ought to get a wand and cauldron first. Now we're heading to Ollivander's wand shop, folks. Welcome back. This feels funny. It feels like we're back into it in a very fun way. Little Lucy says maybe because the wizard community is smaller than the Muggle one, and they may feel embarrassed if somebody figured out where they came from. Possibly, certainly. Good Courage says, well, remember, he had to go to the Dursleys for a very specific reason. Indeed. Good Courage says, otherwise I bet he would have gone to a surviving family member in the Order, or a surviving family from the Order. I remember how Hogwarts helped poorer students like Tom, though. Louise says, kind of feels like Minecraft, Harry Potter. Yeah, it's always fun to come back here, right? And we're coming back in all these new and fun ways. Jade says, some people are Dumble almost. Almost. Indeed. All right, let's see what Ollivander's wand shop is all about. You enter Ollivander's wand shop and are instantly struck by how quiet it is in here. Hundreds of compartments, all with different wand types, cover the walls. The entire place seems to be carved out of wood, almost feeling like the inside of some massive tree.
A student,
says the old, cracked voice.
Have you come for a wand from Mr. Ollivander?
You cannot locate the source of the voice, so you say, yes, to the air. Suddenly, an old man appears at the desk, as if he had always been there. He's hunched over, and he holds a cane, his eyes old and filled with memories.
Mr. Ollivander?
You ask.
That's me,
croaks Ollivander.
Supplier of the finest wands since 382 BC.
He hobbles over to the compartments.
Before the whole wizarding war business,
he explains, looking for something in the compartments.
We would give students a series of wands until one of them worked. However, a student named Hermione Granger devised a far more efficient and ingenious method.
Ollivander opens a compartment and pulls out a wand.
This wand is unique in that a wizard cannot use it to perform magic, as its core is removed. Instead, when a wizard holds it, it will simply point us to the wand which suits them best.
You take hold of the wand and suddenly hear a voice in your head asking you questions. Question 1. You must travel through a dark, mysterious forest, which you've never encountered before. The path is blocked by thick undergrowth and wild animals. How do you get through? A. Blast your way through, destroying anything that dares to block your way. B. Try to search for a easier path, perhaps one made by deer or boars. Or C. Identify the plants and fungi nearby. Some fungi can be used to poison any hostile creatures or plants. A, B, or C? I think we're taking kind of a wand sorting quiz here. A, blast your way through. B, look for an easier path. Or C, try to identify some of the local flora. What do we think? This one's going to be a little wild. Let's see. I've got a couple of votes for B. I'm seeing quite a bit of B, as a matter of fact. I think, yep. Ashes. Okay, I think we have officially reached a sufficient consensus. Ooh, lots of B in there. Ooh, Marin Vare. Marin Vare was the only one who decided differently. No, Sandra voted with the crowd this time. Question 2. We chose the look for an easier path. Question 2. If you could choose any of these lives, which one would you want the most? A. a position where you could have great power and influence. B, a life where you remain unknown to most people but remain content. Or C, making great discoveries that could change the world. A, B, or C? A, power and influence. B, a quiet life. Or C, making great discoveries. A little less consensus on this one, but still sufficient consensus. And I guess together we're making not like individual choices, but the group aggregate. Let's make some big old discoveries. B was close, but C beat it out. So we make great discoveries. Which of these rivers sounds the best? A great roaring river that cuts through the landscape. Option B, a quiet, forgotten stream in the forest. Option C, a river that flows down from the mountains, full of ancient secrets. Which one of these rivers do we like, folks? Crow. There was an option for a quiet life. I think that was option B. Let me see. Okay, they all cut through the landscape, says Jade. Indeed, that's kind of what they do, isn't it? Okay, let's see. We've got some secrets better left unknown because I'm nosy, says Quill. Which Quill? I don't think that's a name I've seen in here before. If it's possible I have, but just not often. So Quill, hello, welcome. Good to have a new punk in the mix. Okay. I think general agreement is C once again. A river that flows down from the mountains, full of ancient secrets. By the way, folks, I think this is a much better system than taking the Twitch poll. Those Twitch polls are just clunky. I think this is working a lot better. Missy says, I'm late, but I'm here. Question 4. This is the final question, folks. Are you ready? You find that an old witch or wizard who you greatly admire is planning on retiring. What do you do? A, try to get in their good graces and hope that they name you as their successor. B, offer them helpful advice if they ask for it, such as peaceful locations to retire to. Or C, see if you can use their notes and find any discoveries they have made. Option A, get in their good graces, try to get in as a successor. Option B, offer advice if they want it. Or C, use their notes to see if they've made any discoveries. Ooh, we're split on this one. We're split on this one pretty good, aren't we? Yes, indeed, Missy. We are currently doing a Choose Your Own adventure via the website chooseyourstory.com. Now, I have not explored this site thoroughly. I can't tell you what else might be on here, but we've been having a good time with this stuff thus far. Yeah, it's an odd question, isn't it, Good Courage? It is for sure. Okay, so not A, it seems like. Pretty resoundingly not A, but I see you over in Discord, Jade. Never you fear. I've been counting your votes. But I'm seeing B, 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 and then I think C might have won it. C, 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 C. Yep, I think C wins just barely. See if you can use their notes to find any discoveries they've made. I also think this doesn't necessarily need to be exploitative. It might just be like, yeah, maybe I will honor their contributions to the world. I don't know. But your wand is, drum rolls, folks. The testing wand moves suddenly like a compass needle toward a specific compartment in the wall. Mr. Ollivander hobbles toward the compartment, and while he looks for the wand, you notice a book on his desk. It is opened to a page describing different wand types. Wands are used by the magical community primarily for 3 things: light magic, potion brewing, and dark magic, though dark magic is officially banned under ministry law. Each wand chooses the wizard or witch and is tied directly to their personality. Each wand is cut from different wood and contains a different core ingredient. 3 examples are oak wood wand with unicorn hair. This wand is very reliable when wanting to perform light magic and has a minor affiliation to potion brewing, but it is nearly impossible to turn to dark magic. It often favors users who want to use their magic to help others, or those who have a special connection with nature. Hornbeam wood with dragonheart string. This wand is very unreliable and weak when it comes to performing light magic, but can perform very powerful dark magic and brew decent potions. Many wizards and witches who have gone on to perform great magic have used this wand, though more than a few have also turned their wands to nefarious ends. Hawthorn Wood and Phoenix Feather Core. This is a very unique wand, as it creates very powerful and potent potions but can only perform the most basic of either light or dark magic spells. This particular wand must be handled with care and generally attaches itself to those who wish to find out the ancient arts of potion making. Mr. Ollivander walks up to you, the wand in his hands.
Here it is,
He says.
take good care of it.
You pass him the coins and you accept the wand in return. Your wand is Hawthorn Wood with Phoenix Feather Core. That is the third one, most affiliated with potion brewing. That's option A, Hawthorn Wood with Phoenix Feather Core, or B, ignore the results and just pick a wand with your instincts. Jade says, y'all are more adventurous than I am. What do we think? A or B? Are we content with this wand? I wouldn't mind being good at potions. Uh-oh. Oh no, we're very divided. Oh boy. It literally goes B-A, 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 B. Although, well, okay, and then I was going to say we had one double up from Missy, which was A, but then Jade counters with B. Holy crap, y'all. Okay. B, 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 B. I think A has just managed to eke out the win. Just barely. Which, frankly, I think I agree with. I know some of y'all may not, but we're gonna grab this wand. Let's see how this potion making treats us. Potion making is interesting because there's not like a light and a dark side to potion making, even though it seems like there should be. Very interesting. Your Hawthorn wand isn't strong enough to perform most magical charms. However, the potions you can use it to brew will be unmatched by any but the most talented witches and wizards. And on to Diagon Alley! In Diagon Alley, you notice a dark alleyway that cuts off from the main road. A cold breeze howls from it, disturbing a wooden sign reading Nocturne Alley, making it creak in the wind. Option A, go down the dark alleyway. Option B, buy your robes and leave Diagon Alley for good. Option C, explore Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, the joke shop. Or option D, explore the magical bestiary. So option A, dark alleyway. Option B, get some robes, leave Diagon Alley. Option C, check out the joke shop, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. Or D, explore the magical bestiary, which is going to be animals and such. Let's see. Rose is confident that you have found the correct answer, and I think there's quite a lot of consensus here. Not perfect consensus, but I think we're heading to the joke shop. You enter the shop and it is full of life. Small helicopter-like objects whiz around you and the sound of 1,000 squeaking toys fill your ears. Next to the window is a pink section with a small cage filled with tiny little creatures that look like single, legless bundles of pink fur called pygmy puffs. Packets of sweets designed to make the user ill so that they can skip school include fever fudge and nosebleed nougats. Expensive shield hats and gloves are on sale, which protect the user from unfriendly spells. There's even a section for muggle magic, that is, tricks that seem to be magic, but are actually just illusions. A haunted deck of cards and an Eduardo's Unbreakable Egg, a bouncy rubber toy egg. Back to Diagon Alley. All right. Now, we've already explored C. I assume it doesn't change if we go back. A, B, or D? A, down the dark alleyway. B, get the robes and then leave Diagon Alley for good. Or D, explore the magical bestiary. By the way, folks, we've got some new folks in here, so I figure I'll just let y'all know once again. My name is Sam. This is Sidecar Stories, and this isn't as far off from what we typically do as some of the stuff we've done this week. Go ahead, and if you want to find out more about the show, go ahead and check out the links there. We are currently on a site called ChooseYourStory.com, and you are helping me decide where we should go. All right, we've got some options here. I'm seeing, let's see, A. Lots of A's and D's. It doesn't look like B is on our list. We want to stick around in Diagon Alley somewhat. Okay, so I'm seeing A, and then D. Great, another tie. Y'all are maniacs. Let me see. I think, so A and D, go down the dark alleyway or explore the magical bestiary. You know what? I think we're going to get a chance to come back if we choose D, so I'm going to go with D. I was right. You enter the bestiary, and it is full of amazing magical animals inside cages, ready for adoption. Giant ornate snails which float in the air appear in one cage, and a small bird cage are fire drakes, budgie-sized dragon-like creatures with glowing tails. There's what appears to be an ordinary lemur in another cage, but as you look at him for a long period of time, you realize the lemur can make toys and various items appear out of thin air. At one point, he even telekinetically summons a banana from the other side of the cage. A rabbit with stag horns hops lazily about, and a tiny mole-like creature eyes your coins greedily. Let's explore this dark alleyway, because it seems pretty clear what y'all want to do next. You go down the dark alley. The bricks are dark gray. Rats scamper around with their black, beady little eyes. Witches and wizards walk past, holding bags which they are careful not to let slip, even though some of them shake and pulsate horribly. The only light here comes from dirty, unkempt oil lanterns. Eventually, you stop by a shop called Borgin and Burke's. A small, weaselly little man stands out the door.
Greetings,
He says with a cracked giggle.
your wand. I must see your wand, see if it contains the soul needed to look at our fine wares.
And I don't think we've got the right wand for this, so we have to head back to Diagon Alley. And finally, we've only got the one option left. We're going to go buy our robes and leave Diagon Alley for good. Quill says, wow, what a definitely not dark magic shop. Indeed. I believe that's the sign over the door. Yeah, we spotted a jackalope and a niffler, indeed. Sander, hey, this is a rare moment of tenderness. Sander says, I want a niffler. They're so cute. Typically, Sander's like a machine. with the commands, knowing Discord inside and out and Minecraft and such. But now I see we found the gooey center at the middle of Sander, and it's nifflers. Oh, there it is. Sander says, and a niffler can help me steal stuff. There we go. That's that practical side that I know Sander well for. I don't know. I still think there might be a nougaty niffler center to Sander somewhere in there. Orly Rose says he only wants it for the loot. All right, let's go get these robes. Let's get that drip. You decide to visit Madame Malkin's robes to purchase a new set for Hogwarts. You visit the robe shop. Though the shop looks tiny on the outside, on the inside it looks like it goes on forever. There's simply a forest of clothes of all shapes and sizes. An enchanted tape measures the size of a sea blue set of robes as a witch takes notes. She glances up at you.
Another student, she says. You must be here to collect your robes. No problem. Just wait here. I'll give you a selection.
Suddenly, a four-legged stool comes galloping over to you like a small dog. It stops just where you're standing, allowing you to sit down easily. As you wait, another student wanders past, his head stuck in a newspaper. The newspaper has a moving picture on the front, showing the faces of several young adults with the title, Remembering Those Who Fell at the Battle of Hogwarts. Young lives tragically cut short. Suddenly, the student trips over, crashing into a line of clothes. His shoelaces were untied.
Oh, bother, he exclaims. This is the third time this has happened.
He tries to put his shoelaces back, but they keep coming undone mysteriously. Hey, bud, what's wrong with your shoelaces?
These shoelaces don't like being...
Actually, you know what? I should do that in character voice.
What's wrong with your shoelaces? These shoelaces don't like being tied together, mutters the student. I've been told that some magical shoes are like this, that I should use a spell to just keep them tied, but it just seems a little wrong to me.
You ask him what could possibly be wrong with that.
I've just learned about the existence of magic, he confesses. And I still can't really get over the fact that it's treated so mundanely. We've really been given power over fundamental aspects of the universe. What do we try to use it for? Tying our shoes? Making toys and sweets? It seems a little absurd and almost disrespectful, in a way. You get to talking with the student and find out his name is James Moffat. He wonders a lot about whether magic is used responsibly. There are plenty of non-magical muggle problems that can be so easily solved with magic, he points out. We've got the ability to solve mass hunger with replication spells. We've got cures for so many diseases, not to mention the fact that happiness charms can do wonders for mental health, and yet we keep them locked away. Only for the chosen few. What do you think?
A, B, or C? A, you say you're not sure either way. B, you agree with James. C, you disagree with James. A, not sure. B, agree. C, disagree. Got an eye on you, Sander. Tell you what, if they ever hit the market, we'll get you a Niffler. Y'all. Oh, man. Okay, it looks like C is not on the list. It looks like C is not something that's an entertaining option for people. So we've got A, and then B, B, B. Okay, I think A is winning. I think A has won this one out.
I'm not sure either way.
It's a difficult thing to talk about, he admits. I'm sure there would be a lot of problems at first, especially considering how scared muggles would be at first, but I also think it would cause even more problems trying to keep our world hidden forever.
Your robes are ready,
calls the witch, Madame Malkin. You wave goodbye to James and get up as your stool scampers dutifully away. Madame Malkin provides you with 3 options for robes. One of them is dark blue, which reminds you of the ocean. 1,000 star reflections glittering in the fabric. The second is shades of green, as if made of the sun-dappled leaves from a forest in summer. The final robe is black as the night sky. Which of these robes do you prefer? A, B, or C? Green, blue, or black? A, green, B, blue, C, black. What do we think? What do we think, folks? Sandra says, I think that with that, we might need to befriend him later in the game. An interesting take, Sander. A bit of prediction, a bit of foreshadowing, perhaps. And we have got quite a bit of agreement on C. We're going. It's time to be emo, says Quill. All right, emo it is. You pick up the robe that you like the look of the most and leave the shop. As you leave, a familiar face is there to meet you. Aldmiro, the wizard. The train ought to be leaving for Hogwarts in less than an hour, so we ought to separate to King's Cross now. You grab Aldmiro's hand and prepare yourself. Somehow, the experience is even more unpleasant than the first time, because you're holding your breath. The air is squeezed out of you, and it leaves you slightly dazed on the other side. You are now between platforms 9 and 10. You're somewhat confused. Where are all the wizards? Surely they should be here too. Aldmiro hands you a ticket that says, Departs from platform 9 3/4. You look bemused, but Aldmiro just smiles. Follow me, he says, and before you can ask where, he dashes at the wall and vanishes. You blink. He's gone through the wall. You gulp and rush at the wall, but before you hit, you stop. Your instincts simply do not allow you to run headfirst through a brick wall. Frustrated, you absent-mindedly lean against the wall while you try to figure out what to do next, and simply fall through it. Onto the other side. You are on platform 9 3/4 by a huge red train called the Hogwarts Express. Students from all around England are here. Many have pets, such as owls and cats, but some have slightly more exotic creatures, such as birds of paradise, and a few even have magical creatures as pets, such as Baku, which look like small furry tapirs. A thought occurs to you.
Why can't we separate to somewhere closer to Hogwarts? You ask. Why do we have to go to a train station in London?
That is a good question, says Aldmiro. The answer is that the enchantments protecting Hogwarts are so powerful that if you were to access it through any other means than the train that departs from King's Cross,
it would just appear as a tiny ruined castle in Loch in Eileen. Only an exceptionally powerful wizard can get through the enchantment otherwise. Well, says Aldmiro, this is goodbye. I have to get back to Hogwarts to discuss important matters with the head of the Aurors, who is visiting temporarily. Take care, and remember, Hogwarts will always help those who ask for it. It is said that Hogwarts has even helped the great Harry Potter defeat Lord Voldemort by keeping his loyal friends safe in a hidden room. And with that, he vanishes. All aboard! Calls the Hogwarts Express driver. And we step on the train. You step on board the train and notice just how quiet the inside is the moment that you're fully on board, as if the bustling people outside simply vanished. You walk across the blue carpet, passing cabins as you go, until you finally find that one is empty. Just as you sit down in one of the red chairs, the whistle blows and the train starts chugging off. The inside of the station gives way to streets of London. As you look out the window, you realize that you can see cars, buses, and muggles going about their daily business, yet not a single one glances in your direction, or notices the giant red train speeding through the city. It's oddly disconcerting, somehow even more so than any of the more overt forms of magic you've encountered so far. The city eventually gives way to the suburbs, then to farms and pastoral fields, and finally to forests and wilderness. The sun sinks behind the mountains in the distance, and the darkness begins to lull you to sleep. You're back at an empty King's Cross station, but it's so dark you can barely make out your location. The crying hasn't stopped, it's only become louder, more distressed. The entire station echoes with the cries and screams of the 8 infants. It feels like you're being driven mad. You can hear the pain in their voice, the fear. But it is a raw terror. The infants do not know or understand what is happening, making the experience so much worse. You wish it could stop. You would do anything to make this stop, anything at all, even... The whistle of the Hogwarts Express blows, shocking you awake. The dream has left you feeling cold, and you notice a glimpse of your reflection in the window, pale as death. But as you start to leave the train, you notice something that makes you feel even worse. Every single other student exhibits the same symptoms. Almost all of them look disturbed, the same pale expression on their face. Of all the students that come past, you only noticed one who seems to be somewhat at ease, a short, black-haired boy. But the fact that so many others are like this cannot be a coincidence. As you walk toward the exit, you hear other students talking amongst themselves.
Haven't been able to get much sleep lately.
What's that?
Just stuff.
Well, have you had any weird dreams or anything?
No? No, of course not. Why would you ask that? Have you been having weird dreams?
No, everything's fine. I was just wondering. You walk out to Hogwarts Station, under the full moon. You see a dark forest in the distance, and you hear a faint howl from those woods. Even though your robes keep you insulated from the cold wind, a shiver runs through you.
First years! This way!
Down the path, you see a tall, imposing figure holding a lantern. Its bright, warm glow makes a welcome change. A few gasps ring out at just how giant the man is, and as he comes closer, you notice he has got a great black beard and an old and worn brown coat. The first years, nonetheless, follow him down the path.
No, I hope none of you are afraid of water,
Says the man.
or the things that live inside of it. You see, if we have a tentacle or two in the water, that's just our giant squid. Nothing to worry about. He's friendly. But we've had a few students in the park be a little skittish around him, so, not understanding he's just a big softy.
Giant squids?
A familiar voice says. You look to your side, and James Moffat is beside you.
But they only live in saltwater and oceans. This habitat is not really appropriate. For one, it's not going to find enough food.
You approach the bank of the huge lake, its surface dotted with 1,000 star reflections, and the moon's reflection stares back at it, like two giant eyes looking at each other. But the castle at the center of the lake is what makes everyone stare in awe. A truly gigantic castle that seems to defy the size of the lake that it's on. Rises up in the distance, its towers and spires reaching the sky, and its windows lit with glowing, magical lights. You're led to a series of boats, but none of them have drivers or even oars. You clamber into one beside James, and slowly, the boat begins to sail out toward the castle. Eventually, the boat stops at the harbor by the school. You're led out from the cold and into the school through two wide wooden doors. You pass paintings that are alive and suits of armor that seem to move only when you're looking away from them. Finally, you're brought into the great hall. The ceiling looks at first like it is an open-topped room, but if you look at it closely enough, you can see the ceiling has been enchanted to look like the night sky. 4 huge tables make up the majority of the room. The headmistress, Professor McGonagall, stands at the podium at the far end. She points a wand at her throat and mutters something. Suddenly her voice echoes through the hall as though through a megaphone.
"Welcome all to your first year at Hogwarts," she says. "Before you go to your beds, we must all be sorted into houses, as per my predecessor's request. Before each ceremony, I must recite the school song to the best of my ability."
She clears her throat, and then in a very serious and prosaic tone, she reads out the school song in the manner of someone reading out the results of an experiment done on ferns.
Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Warty Hogwarts, teach us something, please, she states. Teach us things worth knowing, bring back what you forgot. Just do your best, we do the rest, and learn till your brains rot.
Then, before the students could react, she continues as if nothing happened.
Now, to be sorted.
She points to an old hat on the podium and calls a name. The hat waits on the head of the first student before a tear appears in the hat, like a mouth calling out, "Hufflepuff!" And so, the sorting begins.
"Moffat! James!"
calls out McGonagall, and James walks out and places the hat on his head. The hat waits for less than a minute, then calls out from the tear, "Ravenclaw!" It's your turn. Shaking slightly, you walk onto the stage, and the hat is placed on your head. Suddenly, you hear a voice. The Sorting Hat. "Another year, another sorting," whispers the voice that only you can hear. "Now where do you belong? Gryffindor, where only the bravest and most headstrong and hot-headed go. Ravenclaw, the brightest of all, but also the hardest to fit in. Hufflepuff, where those who value hard work and common sense dwell. Or cunning Slytherin, those who can find ways to achieve anything they set their minds to, whatever that be, for good or ill." The Sorting Hat will ask you a series of 4 questions. These will determine which house you belong in. Are you sons of guns ready to get sorted? Let's do this thing. James Moffat, Moffat. Marinver says, why does his last name sound like I've heard it before? I mean, there's like Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Not often do you get a nursery rhyme about cottage cheese. Jade says, I've got issues with the logistics of everyone riding the same train on the same day from the same station. Hey, magical infrastructure, Jade. Don't you worry about it. Quill says Hogwarts was actually Hogwarts was actually sung that many times, huh? Maybe the Undertale Spider Lady? Who knows? All right. Let's do it. Let's get in here. You are in a field of wheat at night with no recollection of how you got there. In the center of the field stands a figure, cloaked in shadow. You cannot see the figure's face, but you know it is watching you. What do you do? A. Confront the entity, despite your fear, and try to make it feel afraid instead. B. Realize that you must be having some kind of nightmare and render it lucid. C. Pretend to cower in fear, and as it approaches, strike it at its face. Or D. Realize that the being is probably just a normal farmer and ask him if he can lead you home. A, B, C, or D. A. confront it. B, sort of wake yourself up. C, pretend to cower and then clock it in the face. Or D, it's probably just a farmer. Just go meet it. All right, let's see. We've got only the one vote for D. Sanders thinking, you know what, this is probably not a big deal. The rest, I'm seeing a lot of. Oh, Marinver says maybe C. Marinver is going for the stealth moves, and then a lot of A and B. Let me get some counts here. A, and then B. Ooh boy, I think A barely wins out. Confront the entity despite your fear and try to make it seem afraid and try to make it feel afraid instead. First question over. You open a small bejeweled box and you see that inside is an object that brings you joy. What is the object? A rare fossil. B, a badge that belonged to a great hero. C, a note that contains the darkest secret of your worst enemy. Or D, a thank you note from someone you hold dear. Jade says, it's actually the cake from earlier. What do we think? Quill says,
I'm not stuck in a dark field with you. You're stuck in a dark field with me.
Let's see. I'm seeing literally everything except for B. What do we think? Okay, we're starting to get a bit. We're starting to get... Ooh, boy. It looks like it's between A and D here. For the most part. Good Kurt says, dang it, I'm not a Hufflepuff, but D. Missy says maybe a note with the darkest secret of your worst enemy. Let's see. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of A's and a lot of D's. On the D side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the A side, we've got 1, 2, 3. I think we're going D. A thank you note from someone you hold dear. You need to go through a door, but how? A, pick the lock. B, smash the door. C, try to convince, bribe, or seduce the person behind the door. Excuse me. Or D, knock. A, pick the lock. B, smash the door. C, coerce. Or D, knock. Dahlia says, I still have no idea what house I'd be in. All the quizzes can't place me. Yeah, a bit of a mystery. Okay, and by the way, I'm really, really happy to see that this thing is taking off. This stream has been a ton of fun so far. I'm almost hesitant to shut it down for the day. We still got some time. Don't worry. We still got some time. But I'm not sure we're gonna get to Carmen Sandiego today. I'm just not sure. We'll have to find out. Okay. I'm seeing lots of A. I'm seeing quite a bit of A. Some B. This one's got us pretty divided. What do we think? I think it looks like D is just barely in the lead. Not by much. Yep. Okay. I think we're gonna knock. For the final question. Picture a forest you would like to see in your mind. Make sure you take into account every tree, every plant, every aspect of the forest. Which of these represents the forest you thought of best? And take a second here. When you close your eyes and think of a great forest in your mind, what do you think of? What's in your mind? Let me know if it's one of these 4 things. A, dark forest. Trees with gnarled leafless branches and dead logs covered in fungi. B, a forest full of life with birds of so many different species you can name individually. C, a tropical exotic rainforest filled with monkeys and toucans. Or D, a sunny green wood with colorful toadstools and frolicking deer surrounded by birdsong. A, kind of a dark, quiet forest. B, full of life with things you can identify. C, tropical. Or D, just kind of a classic kind of fantasy deer and toadstools. You might expect to see an elf walk out from behind a tree in that one. Or a hobbit, perhaps. Luis, have a good one. Thanks for joining us today. We'll miss you. Okay, I'm seeing. By the way, Jade says, Dahlia, what house would you want to be in if that were a deciding factor? Jade says I'm 100% Hufflepuff. Jade has also voted D. Let's see. I'm seeing some D, B, D, B, D, B, a little C. Okay, it looks like B might be kind of in the lead here. D, 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 D. And then B's have 1, 2, 3. I think D wins. I think we've got it out for D. A sunny green wood with colorful toadstools and frolicking deer surrounded by birdsong. Now, I've got a suspicion here that this is going to land us in Hufflepuff. And I kind of wonder if just about, like, anytime you tried to do this as a group, would you kind of always land in Hufflepuff, I wonder? Because Hufflepuff really is kind of the one that accepts the most oddballs, I think. And your house is... The Sorting Hat is ready to make his decision. Hufflepuff. Or shall we choose to ask the hat if shall we ask the hat if we can choose our own house? I almost wonder if any one of these quizzes sort of done by Quill says the Hufflepuff inevitability, which sounds like it could be like an alt sort of like the Pelican Report or something. Like it sounds like it could be the Hufflepuff inevitability could be like a sort of noir crime story in the Hogwarts universe, in the Wizarding universe. Okay, A or B? A, we take Hufflepuff, or B, we ask the hat to choose. Good Courage says, I think the Hufflepuff, I think the Sidecar Collective is Hufflepuff. And I think you're probably right. I think in general, we are Hufflepuff. We might not all be Hufflepuffs ourselves, but I think we as a crew are Hufflepuff. I think we take Hufflepuff. We've got roughly a tie in here. Hufflepuff! The hat shouts out to a round of applause. Relieved, you join the Hufflepuff table. After the sorting is over, McGonagall announces,
Without further delay, the feast can now begin.
Suddenly the tables are filled with silver plates and cutlery laden with food. Vegetable casserole, potato and beetroot pie, and treacle tart. After the feast, you trudge off toward the Hufflepuff common room. The Hufflepuff common room is located near the kitchens, next to some barrels. The head boy takes out their wand and taps a specific tune on one of the barrels, causing the common room to open up. The inside of the room is circular and quaint, with sun pouring in through the windows. Crescent-shaped sofas are in the corner, and the whole area reminds you of a badger's set. Ferns and other calming plants are found dotted around the area, and each picture is of a different location. One shows a field with a cow absent-mindedly eating some cud. Others show unicorns and deer frolicking together. At last, after the excitement wears off, everyone goes to bed and switches off the light, and though there is a noticeable tension in the air, as if everyone in the room is secretly dreading sleep, though most everyone manages to get to sleep eventually. You can't sleep, however. The dreams you had are lodged in your mind, and you don't think you can bear facing them again. Suddenly you hear voices at the door. There's someone trying to get in, feeling more and more frustrated. Eventually there is a knock at the door. Do you answer? We do, apparently. There was only the one option. Ashes says, I'm Ravenclaw undeniably. I think Sam, myself, I think I am deniably Ravenclaw. But let's find out what happens when you open this door here. You decide to get up and open the door. It creaks open to reveal a short, black-haired boy with a worried expression. His robes have the green lining of a Slytherin student. What are you doing here? You ask, groggily. Suddenly, someone else appears outside the common room. James is there, holding a small tortoise. Someone's pet escaped, he explains. I'd return to get to your cupboard room. The tortoise opens his mouth to let out a burst of flame.
You need to listen now, the black-haired boy hisses. Have either of you been having weird dreams that involve things crying?
You and James look taken aback.
How did you know I was having those dreams?
Asks James. You must admit, you've also been having strange dreams.
That's what I thought,
the boy says gravely.
And my worst fears are realized. It's him. from beyond the grave. The Dark Lord. Voldemort.
James looks shocked. But he was defeated, James exclaims. Voldemort was killed, his soul shattered to 8 pieces beyond repair.
And how many infants were in your dream?
Points out the boy.
It was 8, wasn't it?
What? Yes, says James. That is strange.
Someone in my house is obsessed with him.
The Slytherin boy whispers.
A half-blood girl called Emily Mitchell. She has a family who works in the ministry. I think she's trying to bring the Dark Lord back.
You're silent for a moment. Is this a joke? Replies James. This is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard in my life. Why haven't you gone to one of the teachers then?
And alert her? Reveal that we know what she's up to?
Says the black-haired boy.
That's the worst thing we can do. You might as well just walk right up to her and say, "Excuse me, but are you trying to bring back the Dark Lord?" I'm sure that would work. Why didn't I think of that before?
What is your reaction? A, do you believe the Slytherin student? Or B, you do not believe the Slytherin student? What do we think? What do we think, gang? Quill says, don't say his name. Come on, we've got very clear rules here. Very clear stipulations. You would think it would be safe now, because this is very much post the 7-book series. Resoundingly A. We believe the Slytherin student. You are convinced, but James didn't seem so sure.
How do we know that we can trust you?
James asked the Slytherin.
How do we know that you're not trying to trick us? That you are not the one trying to bring the Dark Lord back?
The boy laughs, a humorless sound.
My name is Capricus Selwyn,
he explains.
If you really think I would want the Dark Lord to return, look at this.
He pulls out a moving newspaper from a few months ago, which reads, "The Tragedy of the Selwyn Parents. These brave souls refused to divulge vital information to the Death Eaters. They were tortured and murdered by the Dark Lord himself, leaving their only child, Capricus, an orphan."
Believe me,
says Selwyn, darkly.
I am beyond happy that Voldemort has been banished, and I hope he suffers every single moment of his miserable existence. I would do anything to stop him from being freed from that torment.
James looks like he's going to retort, but doesn't say anything. He simply walks back to his dormitory without a word. So now that you know what's behind the dreams you've been having. But how do you stop it? Best wait for the morning for that in your first lessons as the rain begins to patter against the window. Orly Rose says, wait, did he say Selwyn? Like the Selwyns Umbridge was related to? I believe there was a bit of that. But it sounds like these Selwyns were good news, not bad news. Jade has put in a vote for occlumency. Orly Rose says they were pure blood, I believe, but not much else was said except Umbridge used it to show her blood status. Indeed. Yeah, she used the name Selwyn has been mentioned, not to a great extent. Good Courage says, this is a longer story, huh? Yes, indeed it is, and I'm very pleased with it. It's been going great so far. Let's continue. Potions class. You are at the station again, but you know what's coming. You seek out one of the crying infants and get a good look at it. You see the snake-like eyes, the horrible, deformed face without a true nose. But as you look closer, this is not a monster. This is not a demon, an eldritch abomination. It's just an infant, crying and alone. You wake up. It's nearly time for your first class of the day, potions. In potions, you learn how to brew concoctions which can influence people, whether for good or for ill. The other two classes you have today are Care of Magical Creatures and Defense Against the Dark Arts. Potions takes place in the dungeons, so you travel down the ever-changing staircase.
At one point, you take the wrong turn, but the helpful spirit of nearly headless Nick points you down the right direction. At last, you find your way to the dungeon. The windows in the walls are like submarine windows, in that they let you see into the green lake itself, the water making the light flicker across the round glass bottle filled with substances of every different color. One looks like pure gold, another looks blacker than night itself. A particularly noticeable bottle is filled with purple liquid that somehow emits a green light over the surrounding table.
Welcome, class,
says a jovial voice, and a large, portly man introduces himself.
I am Professor Slughorn, and I will be taking your class today.
He pauses.
Potions is a versatile and flexible art, and I want your introduction to reflect that,
He says.
As such, the first potion that you make will be up to you. In your textbook, you will find a list of potions to brew. Simply pick one and show it to me at the end of class.
You flick through the book and find a list of possible potions to make. Simple sleeping draught. Recommended for those who are just starting out, the sleeping draught should put small creatures to sleep, though their lack of potency makes it unsuitable for much else. Option B. Draught of the Living Dead. Recommended for those who are reasonably confident with their skills and with a decent wand. This is a hugely more potent form of the sleeping draught, which will put even the most savage monsters into a peaceful slumber, though it should never be used on humans, as the effect would be irreversible. Option C. Felix Felicis. Should only be attempted by those with extreme aptitude and a wand specialized for potion brewing. Felix Felicis is known as the lucky potion, meaning that the user will be much more likely to accomplish their goals with this potion than without it. Although the regular version of Felix Felicis is meant to last for at least an hour, that version takes several months to stew. A much weaker version that will last for about 5 minutes can be brewed, albeit with a lot of difficulty, in around an hour. A, B, or C? What do you mean draft, Good Courage? What are we talking about? Oh, that's right. I keep saying it wrong. That's my bad. Yes, thank you. Draft of the Living Dead. I unfortunately have that one is really stuck in my head as draught because as I was I was very fortunate to find this post a long time ago, but somebody said I find it easier to forgive people who mispronounce words, especially rare words, because it means they learned it by reading. And that has helped me to when I hear other people mispronouncing words, I'm like, ah, yes, indeed. But yeah, that one's locked in for whatever reason. Draft of the Living Dead. Okay, so A, B, or C. And it looks like we have got a lot of votes for C. I think it makes sense. We might as well put to use this wand that we got. We ended up with the good potion wand, so let's use this sucker. Let's see how we do. I wonder if there are any other factors in place. Brew Felix Felicis. You carefully add the ingredients. Rare herbs, fungi, and even very rare substances like acromantula venom and alicorn tears, causing a golden mixture to rise.
Well, what do we have here?
Says Professor Slughorn.
On my word.
He takes your vial, squints at it, and then takes a drop and takes out a single die. He rolls it and gets a perfect 6 every time.
Felix Felicis,
he exclaims.
This certainly won't last very long, about 20 seconds at most, yet for a first year, I am absolutely astounded at the quality. You may keep your potion, maybe it'll come in handy, eh?
You look around the room. James has produced a potion that, when poured into flowers, causes them to emit different tunes. Daffodils create happy, joyful tunes, whereas poppies play sad, funeral dirges. Selwyn, meanwhile, has created a potion that hardens around anything it touches, like amber, allowing him to trap petals and small objects in little crystals. As you look around, you see a student who seems to be struggling with the potion. She is a black-haired Slytherin student who is working on a strange-looking potion. Suddenly you realize who this is. Emily Mitchell, the girl who is supposedly attempting to bring back Voldemort. What do? A, do not draw attention to yourself and ignore her. Or B, confront her directly and ask her about her plan. A or B, you nerds? What do we think? What do we think? A lot of different options here. Okay, I think B has just barely got it up front. Okay, yep, it's pulling into the lead pretty significantly. Here we go. Confront her directly, asking about her plan. You confront Emily, asking if she really is trying to bring back Voldemort.
Yes,
She says.
I am, actually. What are you going to do about it?
You're momentarily taken aback.
Why?
You ask.
Why would you want to bring back the worst Dark Lord ever known? You have been having the dreams, haven't you? Dreams of infants?
You knew! You exclaimed.
You knew about these dreams! About Voldemort's soul! When he died,
Explains Emily.
Voldemort's soul was severed into 8 infants and banished to the afterlife. These infants do not know why they are suffering, they know only pain. Is this fair? Is creating 8 infants to suffer for eternity a good thing?
You pause, unsure of what to say.
Even if you think that it is fair,
She continues.
the screams will just leak into the dreams of magically attuned people. The entire wizarding world will have to put up with these dreams forever. We will all be driven mad.
Then what can we do? You ask.
I have found a way to free Voldemort's soul.
She explains.
My parents knew where his broken Horcruxes were, so all I had to do was do a bit of digging. Even though the soul inside them was killed, I believe that the souls in the afterlife are still connected to these Horcruxes, enough to establish a link with the proper rituals. I cannot truly bring back the dead. Nobody can, but I can communicate with his spirit for long enough to find a solution. If you want to help me, then pretend that you do not know me, as people will misunderstand and think that I am working toward evil ends. Instead, whenever you have the opportunity, try to find anything that would cause Voldemort to feel remorse. Find out if he ever truly loved or valued anything or anyone. Now, goodbye, and remember, you do not know me.
Vane says, too deep for a first year. Yeah, this is launching into the action very quickly. It feels like we need a couple of books before we get to this stuff. Sanders says he loved his snake? Question mark? Maybe. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Do not draw attention to yourself and ignore her. You sneak out of the dungeons when class is over with James and Selwyn, hoping that you do not bring too much attention to yourself. You have quite a long break before your next class. Care of magical creatures. As you walk through the corridors with the 2 students, you get to talking about a strange rumor. A place known as the Room of Requirement.
There's meant to be a room in this corridor that if you walk past it 3 times with what you need envisioned in your mind, the room will appear to be the exact place that you need, explains James.
Oh, this is excellent, says Selwyn. All we need to do is ask the room to provide us with a way to keep the Dark Lord Voldemort locked away. And it won't matter what Emily does.
I think we're getting a little hasty here, says James. I think it makes a lot more sense to ask the room to give us a clue as to what Emily is trying to do. It makes sense to get the full story after all. And plus, if this works, we might even learn about Voldemort, what his vulnerabilities are, whether he actually had any redeeming qualities.
Your decision is the tiebreaker. What do you do? And by the way, folks, I think at this point I can pretty confidently say we are going to have to, we're gonna wrap it up after this one. I don't think we're gonna have time to get into Carmen Sandiego today. Not today. Hopefully in the future. Quill says, stop saying his freaking name. A or B, ask the room for more information on Emily's plan and if Voldemort has any redeeming features. Or B, ask the room for a way to keep Voldemort locked away. A for information, B for a way to keep Voldemort locked away. And I want to tell you all, my name is Sam, this is Sidecar Stories, for anyone who's just joining us. Today is a Choose Your Own Adventure, which is close to, but not quite what we typically do. I typically stream Tuesdays through Thursdays. You can find me here on Tuesdays for Vintage Sidecar. We're currently reading Murder on the Orient Express. On Wednesdays, our Side Cannons, our big tabletop RPG day. We are currently doing a lot of world building. And Option C on Thursdays, we have got Flying Sidecar, a voice actor's venture through some stories we all love, where we are currently reading Percy Jackson, although we have already read through the entire 1 million plus words of the Harry Potter series live. And if you want to know more about all this stuff, go ahead and use the links command. You can find out more. That's for you. Come hang out in Discord after this. Not only that, but we've got another stream later today at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So in a little under 2 hours, we're going to be back here playing Jackbox games. So if you want to find the room codes for that, they're going to be over in Discord. Come hang out, you goons. All right. It seems like pretty much overwhelmingly we have got A on our list here. Quill says, I don't know if she was lying or not, but Voldemort is freed. It would be very amusing. Selwyn seems annoyed, but he defers to your vision. 3 times you walk around, asking the room for what you want, and finally the door in the wall opens, and you walk through. The room of requirement is a medium-sized room, and seems a little basic, but the first thing you notice is that it is filled with bookshelves. The books themselves flip their own pages on their own, as if reading themselves in midair, and then put themselves away when they're done. However, one book catches your attention. A large tome open on a podium. The room cannot make new things, James explains. So this book was not written by it, and it's likely not going to contain the exact answers we need. However, it will give us a general hint as to what exactly is going on. You cautiously approach the book and read the inside. The book is not written as if it were meant to be published. Instead, it looks like a series of very hastily written personal notes, and there's no author name. Perhaps this is someone's personal notebook that had been found by the room. Tom Riddle's upbringing. Lord Voldemort was not always a monster. In fact, he started as a simple child named Tom Riddle, in a Muggle orphanage. Tom Riddle did not enjoy his life at the orphanage at all, and it seems he hated the place, perhaps more than anywhere else. When he left and appeared at Hogwarts, the happiness he felt was almost overwhelming, and it was one of those rare times I saw pure joy on the boy's face. It is sad that this spark of joy was so easily snuffed out by his ambition and desire for power.
Useless, says Selwyn. We know her plans involve Voldemort, obviously.
Well, it's good to have confirmation, grumbles James. No sense on wandering around in the dark, and maybe this gave us more than we realise at the moment.
Yeah, right,
scoffs Selwyn, and you all leave the room to go to your next class. Care of Magical Creatures. The meeting point for the Care of Magical Creatures lesson begins outside Hagrid's hut, just by the Forbidden Forest. The sky is gray and cloudy, but there's something pleasant about the air and the outside as you walk across the grass, the ends of your robes getting slightly damp from the dew from the rain that fell last night.
Listen up, first years,
comes a gruff but friendly voice. The Magical Creatures Professor, Hagrid, comes out of his hut and addresses the class.
Now,
he says,
we'll be heading into the Forbidden Forest. These will be some of the safer, less dangerous parts of the forest, however. Owing to some complications that have happened in previous years, it's been decided that all students must have basic training in a few defensive charms before we go in. I've got a few books here, and if you've got any problems, I'll just be here to keep an eye on you and help.
Your book gives you a choice of light magic spells to learn. Flipendo. This spell is simple yet effective. It's a jinx for early students to learn. The knockback jinx allows you to push any hostile creatures or opponents while doing no direct damage. Like all defensive spells, it can lead to injury. It must be treated with a great degree of caution and never used frivolously, but it's far safer than most others. Stupefy. This is the stunning spell, placing a creature into a coma for a few minutes. It is a spell for those who are reasonably confident with light magic and can be used to take down tougher foes. Protego Maxima. A very powerful shield spell that can only be used by the most powerful practitioners of light magic. This creates a shield around the user that is so powerful that any enemies and their spells will simply bounce off the shield. Multiple people casting this charm will make protective enough to disintegrate enemies, but this is not possible with only a single user. However, it is still a very strong charm. No creature in the Forbidden Forest will be able to stand up against this spell. A. Flipendo, B. Stupefy, or C. Protego Maxima. Flipendo is sort of pushback spell. It's a relatively safe one. B, for more confident magic users, it stupefies people. They sort of pass out for a bit. And then C, Protego Maxima. I don't know if we've got the horsepower for Protego Maxima, but it looks like in general we've got a pretty solid consensus for Stupefy. You manage to learn the knockout spell with a bit of a bother, but you're impressed by how effective it is.
Right,
Says Hagrid.
I reckon you're all ready to go out into the woods, so just stay close to me and you should be okay. Oh, and take these magical oats. Give it to any plant-eating creature and it'll be your closest friend.
You take a handful of oats and then follow Hagrid. You head into the forest, and at first it's nowhere near as scary as you were expecting. The sun shines through the trees, casting its beams upon the leaves of the forest floor.
Now,
Says Hagrid.
we'll be looking at a fairly popular beast today.
He stops in his tracks. The path is blocked by something stretching from one tree to another. On closer look, it appears to be a massive spider's web.
No,
Mutters Hagrid.
no, this ain't right. All the Acromantula abandoned this place after...
He abruptly stops.
Back the way we came.
He says.
Can't do this. Too dangerous.
Suddenly, you hear a clicking from above you. A huge black spider with 8 massive legs and 2 huge pincers the size of pineapples hangs above you from a gigantic thread of webbing. The students scream, but before you can react, the furry legs grab you. You can feel the bristles against your cheeks.
No!
Cries Hagrid, firing spells at the spider with his umbrella.
No, bad spider, let go!
But the spider quickly ascends to the treetops, covering you in webbing. You awaken in the middle of the dark and black forest, surrounded by webbing and stuck to the base of a tree trunk. The trees loom over you, their leaves and branches covered in thick, gray spider webs. You whisper, "Defendo," and the webbing surrounding you becomes undone. You are in the heart of the Forbidden Forest. There is no way you will be able to survive here alone. However, you hear a sound not far off. As you creep closer, you realize there are several paths in the woods. Each path leads to a different part of the spider's nest where he keeps his prey. It's likely that the more difficult paths will contain the most powerful prey. However, with your magical oats, you should be able to tame any plant-eating animal to help you through the woods. So, which path do you choose? A, the webbed and thorny path, the most difficult and dangerous one, or B, the less dangerous path? A or B? Y'all, I'm having a good old time here. This is ChooseYourStory.com. We are currently reading Harry Potter, The Last Riddle is the name of this story. And it is a choose-your-own-adventure style story. So y'all might jump in here and find a slightly different one. Slightly different adventure. Let's see. Spiders are a big nope. Okay, I'm seeing A. I'm seeing B. Good, of course. Of course we've got a tie. And B. And A. Ooh, boy, am I the tiebreaker here? The next one I see in Twitch chat, that's going to be the tiebreaker. The very next one, Gems is the last one I've got right now. The very next one that I see, that's going to decide it. The webbed and thorny path, A. Crow takes it away. The webbed and thorny path, the most difficult and dangerous path. You take the webbed and thorny path. The more steps you take on it, the more you wish you could just turn and go back, but it's too late now. You're committed. The entire path gets narrower, and soon the leaves and webs block out the sun almost entirely. The lack of vision has sharpened your senses. Hearing every howl of the werewolves in the woods, every knock of the woodpecker runs against your very bones. You are led through a forest grove, surrounded by fallen logs and thick fungal growths. As you look ahead into the darkness, figures gather. hunched over with glowing, greedy little eyes. You hear a faint song, and the more you listen, the more oddly tired you feel. Far from home and far from light, our whispers weave the veil of night. Follow us, your lovely tune. Your shining eyes reflect the moon. What do you do? A, drink your Felix Felicis, or B, succumb to the song? Quill says, you actually sung it. Wow. I did, even though I got real pitchy there at the end. I couldn't decide between two notes, so I decided to go in between them, which served me great, as you could hear. Oh, just about universally A. Excellent. Your hands are getting heavier and heavier, but you just about reach for the bottle and drink it down. The golden fluid is thick, like a milkshake. It erases the cobwebs in your mind. You can now see everything in the world as clearly as you had ever seen it before. You're not sure if you've read this in a book somewhere, or if the potion is giving you new information, but the creatures that are hunting you are called Urklings. They're cruel, dangerous beings that dwell in the forests and hunt down lost souls and grind them up to eat. The Urklings seem to notice your change in behavior, and they charge at you. However, just as the creature is about to hit, you trip over a log onto the floor. The Urkling launches itself at you just as another one attacks, and they both begin to brawl with each other. A third Urkling spots you getting away, but you lift up a pebble and throw it at the beast. You completely miss, and the creature laughs cruelly. However, your rock just so happens to hit the bottom of a rotten branch, causing the branch to collapse right on top of the laughing Urkling, knocking it out. The winner of the two Urklings has received huge wounds and is forced to limp away before the spider returns. The Urkling is no match for an acromantula spider. At last, you find your way to the creature that the spider has imprisoned, and decide to free the beast. As you cut through the webbing, you realize what the creature is. A unicorn. The creature has a white coat, a lion's tail, and cloven hooves, as well as a beautiful golden horn at the center of its forehead. The unicorn is at first suspicious, but you feed him some of your magic oats, and he instantly joins your side as your companion. He confidently leads you through the woods, and the dark creatures cower before him and scamper away into the dark undergrowth. Eventually, he finds a familiar figure tramping through the woods alone. Hagrid.
Oh, blimey,
He says when he sees you.
are you hurt? You need any help? I got a full vial of antidote here if anything bits you.
You assure Hagrid you're fine, as he apologizes profusely.
Oh, I'm impressed with you,
Hagrid says, looking at the unicorn.
Finding and befriending a unicorn is a great idea in a place like this. Very well done.
Eventually, you find a way back to Hagrid's cabin, where the unicorn leaves you. However, you get the feeling the unicorn will be keeping an eye on you if you ever pass through Hogwarts grounds again. Hagrid takes you into his cabin and gives you a cup of warm tea and a small baked food known as a scone. The scone, however, is hard as a rock, so when he's not looking, you quickly hide it away. Finally, you thank Hagrid and return to the castle. You find your way to the main hall and see both James and Selwyn there. They were very worried about you and are ecstatic to see you alive. After you catch up, the conversation, as it normally does, turns to the Dark Lord Voldemort and what to do about him.
I think that we should look into his emotional weak spots, says James. If the Dark Lord returns in any capacity, we should know what he valued the most.
I don't think that's wise, interjected Selwyn. If the Dark Lord returns, then we need to send him back where he came from as painfully as possible. We don't need to know about his feelings.
What do you decide to do? A, find what Voldemort valued the most, or B, find a way to send him back where he came from. A, find out what Voldemort valued, or B, find a way to send him back. All right, let's see. A decent bit of A, a little bit of B, But I think overall we're looking in. I think we're tilting toward A. We're going to find out what he valued most.
If you're really set on doing this, says Selwyn reluctantly, then I know the best place to go. If we want to know Voldemort's feelings, then we should visit someone trustworthy who spent time in his inner circle. And the one trustworthy person who kept close to Voldemort is Severus Snape.
But Snape is dead, James pointed out.
That won't stop me,
says Selwyn. You travel up the moving staircases until you reach the gargoyle that guards the room to the headmistress's office.
You got a password?
Yawns the gargoyle in the dark corner.
Tabby Cat,
Says Selwyn instantly.
I've seen you sneaking around here.
Scowls the gargoyle.
I'm sure you overheard that, but the spell requires I let in anyone who knows the password.
The door creaks open and the three of you sneak into the headmistress's room. Dozens of portraits line the wall which blink in the sunlight. Above the desk in a golden clockwork mechanism ticking away lightly upon it. They are all the past headmasters of Hogwarts. Even Dumbledore is there, snoozing away with his half-moon glasses.
Severus Snape,
calls Selwyn to a picture of a man with black hair, gray eyes, and a cold expression.
We're here to ask you about the weaknesses of your former master, Voldemort.
That man was not my master,
Hisses Snape's portrait.
He was an evil, vile, twisted abomination. Nevertheless, he had some weak points. One might think at first that he even loved his snake, Nagini. However, when I investigated further, I found he saw her as a tool, too. The ritual he used to place his soul into her was traumatic for her, involving acts so evil I do not dare to utter them here. No one could cause that amount of pain to someone that they loved. No. The only time I ever saw any happiness on Voldemort's face was when he stepped foot into this castle. I don't know whether it was the castle itself or the feeling of having absolute power over it, but that was when I saw true joy on his face.
After the interaction, Snape didn't seem to wish to talk about it anymore, and you all leave to visit your final class. Defense Against the Dark Arts. You make it to the Defense Against the Dark Arts room and sit down in your seats. There are whispers about your teacher. No one knows who he is or have ever seen their face. Some students whisper he might be a ghost. Others think his face may be deformed, and still others argue he may be undead. Finally, a figure enters the room, his cane knocking on the floor every time he walks, silencing the room. His feet, strangely, do not seem to be making any sound when they hit the floor, and his huge brown robes make it impossible to see who he is.
Greetings, children.
The figure growls, a low-pitched noise you can hear in your very bones.
My name is Professor Skoll, and I'll be teaching you defense against the dark arts.
He removes his hood to reveal the face of a werewolf. A collective gasp arises from the room. A student even screams, but Skoll merely chuckles with a wolfish glee.
No need to worry,
he barks.
I may be a werewolf, but that doesn't mean I don't have standards for my food. And let me tell you, not a single one of you will be worth making into a meal.
Skoll pauses.
But in all seriousness, I do think you deserve an explanation. Firstly, when the Dark Lord was vanquished, most people were convinced that the curse he placed in Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher had vanished. However, your headmistress thought there would be lingering effects. And since the spell only affects humans, she thought that I, a permanent werewolf bitten during a rare phase of the moon on a leap day, who can keep my mind intact with frequent wolfsbane potions, will be perfect for the job. Turns out, she was right.
Can I take a quick moment to just say, I've never done this with my voice before. This is a new level I'm hitting here. I can feel my vocal cords vibrating.
Now,
Says Skull.
it's time for the lesson. We will be testing everything you've learned by sending you to fight some lesser, dark creatures. You'll each be granted an amulet, and each amulet is a port key, meaning it'll transport you to and from the target location. The location you're sent to will be an obstacle course of sorts, and you simply need to get to one end of the course to complete the task. If you run into problems, the amulet will send you back instantly, so you're not in any real danger. It's recommended you read the Guide to Darkness beforehand to know what you're up against.
An amulet appears on the desk in front of you in a puff of smoke. You may grab it when ready. A, grab the amulet, or B, read the textbook. What do we think? Orly Rose says, yeah, port keys have never been used for nefarious means. Completely not suspicious. I'm seeing a lot of B in there. Gotta read up. Okay, good. A studious crew. Should have expected it from the sidecar gang. All you punk ruffians. Gather your information. Uh-oh. Okay, good. It worked. Read the textbook. The magical world is filled with all sorts of dangerous evil creatures, such as the ones below. Kappa, a kind of Japanese water demon. These monkey-like imps will rise from the water and drag down any unsuspecting victims under their waves. Their biggest weakness is the bowl on their head. If you bow to a Kappa, they are honor-bound to bow back, spilling the water and falling asleep. Will-o'-the-wisp, also known as hinky-punks, these spirits inhabit marshlands and thick fogs, holding a lantern. If anyone lost in the gloom will follow the lantern and get even more lost before eventually drowning. The will-o'-the-wisp, however, spends a lot of time flashing and jumping around, so if you see a flashing light, do not follow it. But if you see a still light is safe. Cernunos, an extremely rare beast. These creatures take on a variety of forms, but they often appear as a human with an animal head. Wand magic fails when used against them. They are only creatures known that have the power to block wands. They have the ability to summon beasts to do their bidding. However, that is also their weakness, as they can summon beasts that are hostile toward them as well. And now we grab the amulet. Suddenly, your location shifts away from the inside of Hogwarts to a damp, grassy ground. You open your eyes, your face on the grass, and you stand up. You are on an island in the Great Lake by a boulder. The boulder has an arrow on it, pointing to the shore of the island. Suddenly, rising out of the water, there are strange beings. They look a bit like monkeys, except they've got turtle shells, and on top of their head is shaped like a bowl with water inside it. They walk toward you, their fangs bared. What do? A, use Flipendo spell or the Stupefy spell. B, bow to them, hoping they will spare your life. Or C, run. A, B, or C? What do we like? I'm seeing some B in there. I'm seeing a Flipendo. Excellent. What do we remember from our reading? Snap decision. That's right. It looks like B's winning out. We bow. You bow to the creatures, and though their eyes are alight with hate, they still bow back. As soon as the water falls from their head, the creature's knocked out. Eventually they give up and sink back into the water. You continue on, and as you walk along the river shore, the clay and mud ruining your polished boots, a white fog rolls in, obscuring your vision. You do not know where to go. However, you see two lights in the distance. One is a constant light that is perfectly still, while the other is flashing and seems to move up and down. Which way do you go? A, follow the flashing light, or B, follow the still light? Have we done our reading? I think that we have. Quill says of the Kappas,
You have been defeated by the power of social convention.
we follow the still light. Oh, good grief. You follow the still light, even though the other one seems to be getting more and more frustrated. You are finally led out of the mist to the other end of the island, surrounded by old oak trees. Something moves in the trees. At first you think it is a stag, but it's far too tall. Then, as the being approaches you, you realize it has the head of a stag, but the body of a man. And its teeth are red, dripping with blood. Out of the woods, other animals start to appear. A bear and 2 wolves, all with green, glowing eyes. You try to cast a spell, but the creature is somehow blocking your magic. How do you react to this? A, call for help, or B, run? Call for help or run? Lots of A in chat. Help! You call for help if anyone can hear you. Just as the creatures are about to pounce, a white, beautiful animal charges past you. Your unicorn friend is here. The unicorn keeps the wolves and bear at bay, and they back down, snarling. The stag-headed beast attempts to stand up to the unicorn, but the unicorn simply does not back down. Eventually, the stag creature backs away and runs off into the forest. The unicorn bows to you, then vanishes away, back to where he came from. Your amulet begins to glow and takes you back to Hogwarts. Professor Skoll congratulates you.
Well done, little cub,
Says the werewolf.
I must say, out of all the students, you were the only one who managed to fend off the Sununos at the end. And taming a unicorn is not an easy thing to do.
It's nighttime now. You must have been in that fog for longer than you thought. As you step out of the room, James and Selwyn run up to you, their faces pale.
Emily is in the Great Hall, says Selwyn. She's doing the ritual now.
It's true, gasped James. It's all true. I didn't want to believe it, but she's trying to summon Voldemort's spirit.
That's it, you say. We need to inform the teachers. We need to do it now.
You turn back to Professor Skoll, but James stops you.
We tried that, he explains. We were put in detention for making up lies about students, and we're only just escaped. We can't risk it again. We have to confront her now.
All 3 of you rush toward the Great Hall as fast as you possibly can. It is eerily quiet outside the Great Hall, and the doors are closed.
Listen,
Hisses Selwyn, and you put your ears close to the door to hear a sinister incantation.
Carry my plea beyond the veil, to where no mortal soul may sail. Your life shall return past its start, end, and middle when I call your name. Tom Marvolo Riddle.
If Emily's ritual is allowed to be completed, she may be able to summon Voldemort. What do you do? We burst in and confront Emily. You throw the doors open and charge into the hall. Emily sits there, eyes closed and cross-legged. There's a cauldron full of a strange mist, and she's surrounded by strange items that look heavily damaged. A locket, a ring, a diary, a burned tiara, a snake's fang, a goblet, and a locket of jet-black hair. Emily opens her eyes and then gasps.
No,
She cries.
you can't interrupt me. You don't understand. I'm trying to help you all.
don't listen to her lies, hisses Selwyn. All we need to do is take away these filthy objects and the ritual will not work. We'll stop the Dark Lord and prevent his return for good.
2 Slytherin students. 2 different goals. What do you do? A, hear Emily out, or B, use a spell to knock the items away. A lot of A. We're gonna hear Emily out. Which might be important because I don't think we took the knock stuff away spell. I don't think we know that one yet.
Thank you,
Says Emily, shaken. Selwyn looks aghast, and James doesn't know what to think.
You've all been having strange dreams, haven't you?
She says.
I know what they are. When Voldemort was destroyed, his soul was split into 8 pieces. Each piece became an infant with no memory or knowledge of what Voldemort had done, and each infant is being tormented forever and afterlife. My parents work for the Department of Mysteries. In the Veil's room, they have found this truth out from there. The torment these souls feel is so profound that everyone attuned to magic can pick up on this in their dreams. It will never end until these infants are freed from their pain. So what I have done is found a way to temporarily reconnect the echoes of Voldemort's soul. For a few minutes, here on the site of his death, I can bring the spectre back. He'll be harmless, but if he can somehow be convinced to find peace, then these dreams will stop.
Don't be absurd, shrieks Selwyn. He'll never be able to find peace. And he should never be able to find peace. Don't you know what he's done? His soul ought to be locked away in pain forever. A few stupid dreams are worth that price.
Option A. Do we allow Emily to complete the ritual and summon Voldemort? Or option B. Do we use a spell to knock the items away?
No!
Cries Selwyn, and he aims his wand at Emily. Expelliarmus! Shouts James, and Selwyn's wand flies out of his hand, and James picks it up. Just give her a chance, okay? Says James. Selwyn looks from you to James, then tries to run toward the objects around Emily, but without a wand he cannot break the shield charm around the circle. The ritual is now complete. Suddenly, glowing threads appear around each of the items, which connect with each other and cause a beam of light to appear above the circle. The beam of light screams, but it's a very faint sound, like an echo.
Riddle?
Calls Emily.
You're free of your torment for just a few moments. You can be free for eternity if only you show remorse. If you truly understand the evil that you have done.
Remorse?
Hisses the voice of Voldemort.
Remorse? As if my creation of the Horcruxes, my search for immortality, is something I should be ashamed of. As if the muddled blood I spilled is worth anywhere near as much magical blood. I have suffered greatly over these years, but I would gladly suffer 100 more years rather than feel remorse for them.
It's no use,
You say?
there is no love in Voldemort. No love for anyone. How can you make someone who has never loved feel remorse? There must be a way.
Says Emily.
Everyone has got something that they love. They must.
What do you do? A. Suggest that Voldemort may have loved Hogwarts. Or B. Try to guess at what Voldemort may have loved.
Riddle,
You shout.
he may have hated muggles and the muggle world, especially your orphanage. Even other witches and wizards meant nothing to you, and you saw your only friend Nagini as a tool to advance your agenda.
You know me well, child,
He hisses.
well enough to know I will never, ever show remorse or regret.
But I know one place you did love.
You say?
Hogwarts Castle.
Voldemort's spectre is silent.
Ever since you came to Hogwarts, you were enchanted.
You say?
You saw Hogwarts as proof that you were special, that you were above those muggles or muggle-borns with muggle parents, but the fact of the matter is, Hogwarts was founded by 4 people, 3 of which wanted people with muggle parents to come here. Each brick here is just as much for a muggle-born as it is for those of magical birth.
Silence,
Hisses Voldemort.
I would have fixed that great error.
Yet did you fix Hogwarts?
You point out.
Hogwarts will always help those who ask for it. Yet it helped Harry Potter time and again to defeat you. And when you, Voldemort, were finally placed in power of it, it was destroyed. Almost beyond repair. Face it, if Hogwarts has any feelings at all, it absolutely hates you. And your ideas about magical blood.
Voldemort didn't say anything.
I wanted Hogwarts to be strong, he whispers at last. I thought that the purging of Muggle blood would make Hogwarts rise higher than ever before, but I brought devastation and destruction, with the castle turning itself against me.
Suddenly there was a blood-curdling scream, one that shattered the windows of the great hall, and the light vanishes.
What was that? Asked James, bemused.
The ritual is over,
Breathes Emily.
Riddle is gone.
Great, says Selwyn. Just great. Maybe his spirit is awakened now. It can travel anywhere it wants.
That is not how this works,
Explains Emily.
One of two things has happened. Either Voldemort's beliefs have not changed and the nightmares are going to get worse and worse. Or he showed true remorse in his final moments, and his spirit is finally at peace.
In the days after the ritual, there was much talk in the wizarding world of the strange dreams that had plagued their inhabitants for a few days. The ministry had been investigating these dreams, only for them to mysteriously stop all of a sudden. It appears the ritual was a success. Riddle's broken and battered soul, at least in part, showed remorse and regret for the actions he had committed, and was given some semblance of peace in the afterlife. Meanwhile, Fleece's orphanage continued to get less and less money, to the point where Mrs. Cole was considering shutting it down for good. However, one day, a man in a purple robe came over. He said he had been requested to do this by one of the former orphans, and left a strange golden drink with Mrs. Cole called Felix Felicis. After drinking it, Mrs. Cole somehow managed to negotiate for a huge deal with the government. The greedy executives, who were simply using the orphanage as their own private piggy bank, were booted out, and the orphanage became the most happy and well-funded state orphanage in the whole of London. After a few decades, James managed to convince the Ministry of Magic to help out Muggles a lot more, and many of their most major problems suddenly became solved by a mysterious outside force. Emily worked in the criminal justice system and hugely reformed it, bringing reoffending rates to an all-time low. Selwyn, meanwhile, learned to let go of his hate and went on to live a quiet life in the countryside. All was well. Y'all, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Folks, I mean, I think we're pretty new here, but, you know, it was trying to accomplish a lot in a short period of time, so the pace was much, much quicker, obviously, than the actual Harry Potter books. But I think we can agree, whoever wrote this, the person who wrote this, I'm going to go find their I'm going to go find their username again in just a moment here, but they were very intentional. They brought in themes and ideas that came straight from the books. It was a good continuation of those ideas. We didn't go over and say, all right, now it's a war with giants, and they're just all, giants are evil, so now we're in a war with them. That's the new big bad guy. It was a continuation of some things that we had already explored in Harry Potter, and it was a pretty adept sort of distillation of those themes and how they might continue to move in the world past the events of the final Harry Potter book. I thought that went pretty darn well. Well done. I'm not going to leave a comment right now, but Fluttershy Pegasus, a fanfiction story game by Fluttershy Pegasus. This is Harry Potter, The Last Riddle, and this is on ChooseYourStory.com. I'm going to drop a link in chat right now, as a matter of fact. I'm going to drop this over in the Book Fair chat over in Discord. And if y'all are wondering, I'll drop it here on Twitch as well, but if y'all are wondering what's going on here, what we do here, my name is Sam, this is Sidecar Stories, and
I stream stories. That's basically what I do. Of course, right now we are in the midst of Book Fair. I want to give a big thank you to all of the folks who have joined up as patrons. I am going to do the full roundup. I think, you know what? No, I'm going to do a full roundup right the heck now is what I'm going to do. Y'all, thank you so very, very much. We've even got some new folks in here. Okay, so this is really exciting. At the very highest, upmost tier, the shocking sequels, Jade Dragon and Death Metal Dahlia. At the very highest levels, you are supporting Sidecar Stories beyond what I ever intended to have a level for. So thank you very, very much. At the Novel Nouveau levels, I want to say thank you a ton to Deb, to Luis the Goat Lady, to Marin Vera, and to Sander. Y'all, thank you a ton. I know Sander, you've been with this for a while. Luis and Marin Vera, you've both upgraded recently. Y'all, thank you a ton. Y'all are incredible. And Deborah is fairly recent as well. So a lot of new stuff going on here. I am absolutely 100% thankful for all of you. Sparkle Lovegood, over in the Chapter Champion tier. Good Courage, I see you in there. Hello. Let's see. Daniel, Gems, Vicky. Gems, I don't remember if you're still here or if you've gone off to sleep. I hope you've gotten some sleep. I hope the recording went well as well. Vicky, Allie D, Orly Rose, and E. Y'all, thank you so very much. At the Pristine Page level, we've got some new folks in here, at least one. Mr. Halfbit, Jack Bill, who's another very recent one. Lucy. Hi, Lucy. Dan, Amy, Neens, and Holly Rose. And by the way, folks, if you want to jump in on some of this merch, you're going to be able to see some of the excellent artwork that Holly Rose has done. You should come over to Patreon right now, as a matter of fact. Check out this link, the merch link. That's going to drop a link in there to a post that will describe to you all of what's going on with all the merch stuff. And then finally, at our bold bookmark level, we've got Reed, Sing Se, Saumya, Sapphire Lady, Stationary Fork, and Kim. Y'all, thank you a ton. At the we've got everything from Discord roles at just about every level. Every level is going to get to vote on things, and then all the way up to we got behind the scenes looks at things. We have got new shows that are coming out and feedback on those things. We have got the I should clarify. Not every level is going to be able to vote on every single thing, but my patrons are the ones who are going to get to vote on like what new blocks come up. But we've got behind the scenes. We have got new shows, and when those come up, you're going to be my first line of feedback there. And then of course, up and beyond that, all the way up and down, we have got the sound bites, which is going to give you all a chance to send me a script every single month, and I will read that for you. I will do it right here on stream. I'll do it in whatever voices you want. So send me anything from a Tumblr meme to a script that you wrote. I would love to perform it for you. Little Lucy says, 100%, this was amazing. Y'all, I think this was really, really good. This is going to be available for another 2 weeks on Twitch, and then after that is going to be available for patrons. So I hope you will check that out. This was a blast. If you enjoy this, either as a patron or as a non-patron, consider being a patron. So I guess I should have just said, if you've enjoyed this as a non-patron, consider becoming a patron, because the patrons are the ones who are going to get the chance to vote for, when I've got a new block of time available, what is going to fill that block. So, y'all, this week is just a week full of like pilots for new shows that we could try out in the future. Plague says, by the way, everyone welcome Quill. He's a great guy. Has been so far, for sure. I loved having Quill in here today. Y'all, thank you so much. Head over to Patreon as we are wrapping up today, and I'll see y'all again in about an hour. That one might be a little late. I will keep you updated via Discord. I have a phone call that has to happen at about 3:40. So it's possible I will be on the phone for a little while, but I would say expect me to be no longer than about 15 minutes late for that one. But we're playing Jackbox games later, so come hang out, all right? All right, let's do this thing. Everybody, I will see you later on, and I hope you have a good one. Let me go ahead and make sure there's nobody to raid over to in the midst times here. Oh, there is indeed. Guess who's online? Y'all know who's online. It's Stationary Fork. Let's raid over. Stationary Fork. And by the way, tell Fork I want to play Splitgate with her and whoever else is on. I want to do a stream with Stationary Fork where we do Splitgate. Assuming she enjoyed it. I have not played it yet, but I did download it the moment that I saw that she was playing it. Let's go hang out with Stationary Fork, huh? Let's go do this thing. And y'all, I will see you back here in about an hour. Like I said, I'll keep you updated over on Discord. Bye-bye, folks.